There was a game tournament that was being held in China. The game had been very popular in China for these past few years. The game was called Glory. There were esports teams which were participating in the game tournament. Those esports teams were Excellent Era, which had red uniforms, Blue Rain, which had blue uniforms, Tiny Herb, which had green uniforms, and Tyranny. It was Excellent Era and Tiny Herb's turn to compete against each other. Each of their team had 6 players, which consisted of 5 main players and 1 substitute player. One of those esports players was called Ichio. He was the captain of Excellent Era. He managed to steer Excellent Era to victory for 3 years straight. While Ichio was playing in the game tournament, he always wore a mask. It was because he didn't want to be recognized by the public. He didn't want to show off and be perceived as arrogant. Not long after that, the game tournament finally began. It seemed like Excellent Era was very experienced in dealing with their enemy, Tiny Herb. They managed to divide their enemy's formation. One of Excellent Era's players, called Su Muching, was ordered to distract the captain of Tiny Herb. Tiny Herb began to get overwhelmed because of Excellent Era's attacks. They finally decided to use their strategy. They decided to run away and left their healer behind. When Ichio saw that, he began to feel suspicious. As the captain of the team, he warned his team to be careful because it might be a trap. But a member of his team didn't listen to him. He didn't want to miss the chance to attack the Tiny Herb's healer. But suddenly, while he was running toward the Tiny Herb's healer, the rest of their enemy came and attacked him. His character finally died. The table had turned now. Excellent Era had to continue the game tournament with 4 players only. They had to compete against Tiny Herb, which still had 5 players. A shooter from Tiny Herb thought that it was the time for them to attack Ichio. But suddenly, while she was about to shoot Ichio, she got shot in the head by Su Muching. Her character finally died. Because of that, Tiny Herb had 4 members left too. Excellent Era decided to use the same strategy that they used early. They finally managed to defeat all of Tiny Herb's members. They won over Tiny Herb by the score of 4-3. After the game tournament was over, the press conference was held. But as usual, Ichio didn't attend it because he didn't want to be recognized by the public. And apparently, despite he had great skill in playing Glory, it wasn't enough for the esports business. He needed to make an appearance in public too if his team wanted to receive financial rewards. The chief commissioner didn't like how Ichio never wanted to make an appearance in public. Because of Ichio, they couldn't receive their financial rewards. The commissioner was the person who invested in Excellent Era. So, he told the director of Excellent Era, called Pao, to replace Ichio with someone else. Not long after that, Pao finally found Ichio's successor candidate. He was called Sun Xiang. Pao introduced Sun Xiang to Ichio. Sun Xiang was a talented rising star in Glory, but he was still a beginner. So, he wasn't very experienced in playing in the game tournament. When Ichio met him, he didn't like him immediately because of his arrogant manner. After introducing them to each other, Pao asked Ichio to teach Sun Xiang on how to be a good captain for Excellent Era. It was important for Excellent Era because they still needed a good team captain after Ichio left. But since Ichio didn't like Sun Xiang, he rejected their request immediately. He also decided to break the employment contract and resign from his job. Then, he gave the game account that he had managed for 10 years to Sun Xiang. It seemed like he didn't really want to give it to him, but he finally let it go. After that, he changed his clothes and left the dormitory of Excellent Era with a heavy heart. Ichio didn't know where he wanted to go. So, he decided to visit a mini-market nearby and bumped into Su Muching there. They went grocery shopping together. After that, Su Muching was heading back to the dormitory, but Ichio didn't go with her. Ichio finally told Su Muching that he had stopped working as Excellent Era's captain. Su Muching was surprised when she heard that. She wanted to resign from her job too and go with Ichio, but Ichio stopped her immediately. He said that Su Muching had to continue their journey without him. Apparently, Su Muching and Ichio had been friends since childhood. They also had another childhood friend called Su Muchio. Su Muchio was Su Muching's brother. Su Muching, Ichio, and Su Muchio began their journey to play Glory together 10 years ago. They were the founding fathers of Excellent Era because they were the ones who created the club. Excellent Era was one of the oldest esports teams in Glory. One day, when they visited an internet cafe, they met a new friend, Tao. These days, Tao was working as the manager of Excellent Era. Ichio was still wandering aimlessly through the streets. Then, he saw an internet cafe nearby and decided to visit it. In that internet cafe, Yi Qiu created a new game account which he called Lord Grimm. While he was playing the game, he met many beginners there. It reminded him with the time when he began to play Glory 10 years ago. In that game, Yi Qiu's character picked a weapon that belonged to Su Muxio's character. It was a non-class weapon that could produce any skill and power from any class in that game. But since it was a non-class weapon, Yi Qiu had to be a non-class in that game. It meant that he couldn't upgrade his role. In that game, after the players reached level 20, they could upgrade their roles as the assassin, the archer, the warrior, etc. So, they could specialize their skill. And usually, they couldn't wait to have their dream role. But Yi Qiu chose to be a non-class instead. He chose to use Su Muxio's weapon that could produce any basic skill and power from all roles. He called that weapon Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. Turned out, the owner of the internet cafe that Yi Qiu was visiting was also playing Glory. It seemed like she wasn't very good in playing that game. She was called Guigua. She was Yi Qiu's die-hard fan. Yi Qiu saw that Guigua was having a hard time playing the game. So, he decided to help her. But Guigua had no idea that the person who was helping her was her idol, Yi Qiu. It was because Yi Qiu always wore a mask when he was playing in the game tournament. So, Guigua couldn't recognize his face. Yi Qiu found out that the internet cafe was looking for a Glory player. So, he decided to apply for the job. He went by the name of Yi Qiu. Apparently, Yi Qiu was the name of Yi Qiu's twin brother. Yi Qiu chose to use Yi Qiu's identity so he couldn't be identified as Yi Qiu, an esports pro player. In a job interview, while Guigua was asking him about his work experience, Yi Qiu said that he didn't have any qualification that was needed as a player. But since Guigua had witnessed his great skill in playing Glory, she decided to accept him to work there. After that, Guigua took Yi Qiu to his new room. His new room was very different from his old room in the dormitory of Excellent Era. The next day, Yi Qiu began to work at that internet cafe. But each time he tried to solve a problem, he only created more new problems. Because of that, he had to work without getting paid. At another place, there was a journalist who was obsessed with Yi Qiu. He was a die-hard fan of Yi Qiu. He tried to gain information about why Yi Qiu left Excellent Era. He couldn't understand why Yi Qiu left the team that he had built and fight for 10 years. But when he tried to enter the building of Excellent Era's dormitory, he was soon kicked out by the security guards. After that, he visited the internet cafe called Happy that was located in front of Excellent Era's dormitory. He came there to play Glory. In that game, he met Lord Grimm, Yi Qiu's character. They planned to destroy the boss together. Since Yi Qiu had been playing Glory for a long time, he quickly knew that the journalist wanted to seize all the stolen goods for himself. So, Yi Qiu decided to do nothing and wait until the rest of his team died. Soon after all of his team members died, Yi Qiu finally attacked the journalist by himself. He managed to kill him. After that incident, everybody in all servers began to talk about Lord Grimm. Yi Qiu began to slowly upgrade his character's level. At another place, Excellent Era decided to hold a press conference to answer public's questions about why their team captain suddenly left them. Sun Xian was also there. He looked a little bit pressured when he introduced himself as the new captain team. The next day, Yi Qiu was hunting monsters again with the journalist who came yesterday. But this time, Yi Qiu planned to attack the monsters first. The journalist believed that Yi Qiu was going to die. But turned out, Lord Grimm, Yi Qiu's character, managed to kill the monster by himself. Apparently, Guigua had been watching Yi Qiu since he was playing the game. She was happy with how Yi Qiu played the game. In the evening, Guigua's best friend came from another town. She was called Little Tang. She was working as a pianist. Little Tang was a perfectionist who was obsessed to win. All that she had in her mind was only about winning or losing. Little Tang really cared about her best friend, Guigua. She always told Guigua to continue her study at university. Guigua didn't continue her study at university because she was addicted to game. But because she didn't want to be blamed by Little Tang, she blamed Yi Qiu instead. She told Little Tang that Yi Qiu always forced her to play Glory with him. Little Tang had no idea that Yi Qiu just started working there yesterday. Then, Little Tang challenged Yi Qiu to compete against her in Glory. Yi Qiu accepted that challenge. Little Tang used Guigua's account to play the game. The game finally began. During the game, Yi Qiu was only avoiding Little Tang. But suddenly, when the time was almost over, Yi Qiu attacked and destroyed Little Tang. Little Tang couldn't accept her loss. So, she asked Yi Qiu for another game until a late hour. But the results were the same. She kept losing to Yichio. Yichio finally decided to create her own account in Glory. There was a guild in Glory. One guild could accommodate up to thousands of people. Out of those thousands of people, 6 people were selected to become the members of the core team. They were the best people in the guild. After they were selected, those 6 people would participate in the game tournament. The captain of the team was different from the captain of the guild. The person who was selected as the captain of the team must be a very experienced person, meanwhile the captain of the guild was usually a wealthy person. The Guild of Blue Rain was facing a crisis situation since their members kept leaving the guild. Because of that, the captain of the guild asked Lord Grimm to promote their guild to new players. Yichio accepted his request immediately. He saw this as an opportunity. He could use the Guild of Blue Rain's money to upgrade his character's level quickly. Then, Yichio helped the Guild of Blue Rain to break a new record for the invasion. It was important for Blue Rain so they could gain some rare materials, such as rewards. In that invasion, as usual, Yichio defeated the boss monster by himself. After they finished their invasion, Yichio quitted the guild right away. At the internet cafe, Lil Pang finished her first mission. She chose the role of the fighter. At the dormitory of Excellent Era, Su Muching practiced playing Glory with Sun Xiang. She was under a lot of stress because of how Sun Xiang led the team. Sun Xiang was being rude and too hard on her. Suddenly, Su Muching missed Yichio. She missed the time when Yichio was still there and working as the team captain. At another place, the 3 great guilds of Blue Rain, Tiny Herb, and Tyranny were working together to defeat the boss monster. While they were arguing about who should attack the boss monster first, a mysterious man suddenly appeared and attacked that monster. That man was really good in fighting. Turned out, he was one of Yichio's students. He was called Baozi. Not long after that, Yichio also came to that place to help Baozi in fighting that boss monster. Meanwhile, the 3 guilds were still arguing about who should attack the boss monster first. When the boss monster almost died, Yichio and Baozi ran away to hide immediately. The 3 guilds were finally heading to the boss monster's place. In Glory, when a monster almost died, that monster usually would go berserk. It would attack and destroy anything near it. This time, since the monster almost died, it went berserk too. It became very angry and brutally shot anything near it. When the 3 guilds arrived at the monster's place, they realized that the boss monster became violent and it was too late for them to avoid it. That boss monster finally attacked and killed all of them. After all of them died, Yichio and Baozi came out of their hiding place. They attacked and killed the boss monster together. Guiguo realized that Yichio was really great in playing Glory. Because of that, she asked Yichio to become a personal mentor for Little Tang. Yichio couldn't do anything but to accept her request. But when Yichio sent a friend request to Little Tang in Glory, Little Tang rejected his friend request immediately. She thought that she didn't need any help from anyone. Since Guiguo kept forcing Yichio to help her best friend, Yichio finally created a basic handbook for Little Tang. The next day, after Little Tang read the handbook from Yichio, she competed against Guiguo to test her playing skill. Guiguo didn't expect that Little Tang didn't let her win at all this time. After Guiguo saw Little Tang's improvement, she was tempted to read the handbook from Yichio too. But when Guiguo opened the book, she was surprised to see that the handbook didn't have any instruction at all. The handbook only contained Yichio's absurd drawings. But surprisingly, Little Tang managed to understand those absurd drawings. Because of that, she finally accepted the friend request from Yichio. Even though Yichio fooled everyone in the last game, the captain of the Blue Rains Guild still wanted to ask for his help. He asked Yichio to break a new record to fight the boss monster. Yichio accepted his request right away. He wanted to use this moment to train the teamwork between Little Tang and Baozi. Su Muching was also invited by Yichio. She created a new game account to play with them. After that, the 5 of them fought the boss monster together. They managed to break a new record. Lord Grimm and Blue Rain's consecutive new records were noticed by the Guild of Excellent Era. The Guild of Excellent Era then asked their core team to break Lord Grimm's new record. Sun Xiang and his team accepted this challenge immediately. They finally managed to break Lord Grimm's record with a much higher score than Lord Grimm's last score. When the captain of Blue Rain's guild saw that, he texted Yichio right away to ask for his help again. But Yichio said that Excellent Era's record was extremely high and almost impossible to break. But he added that he liked challenge and he would find a way to break Excellent Era's record. After that, Yichio began to do some research about how to attack the boss monster faster. While he was doing his research, he thought that he needed a swordsman to help him. At another place, another game tournament finally began. It was the first game tournament for Sun Xiang. His team, Excellent Era, was going to compete against Blue Rain. From the game tournament, it could be seen that Sun Xiang was really great in one-on-one competition. He managed to win 3 rounds straight by himself. Because of those wins, Sun Xiang was very proud of himself. Turned out, it was only a part of Blue Rain's plan. Their strategy was to send some less competent players in one-on-one competition. So, Sun Xiang could defeat all of them and would get big-headed. Then, the captain of Blue Rain ordered Blue Rain's vice-captain to attack Sun Xiang. The vice-captain was called Xiaotian. He was an expert swordsman. He also liked to talk a lot. He was asked to annoy and bother Sun Xiang with his big mouth. While Sun Xiang was busy fighting alone, the rest of Excellent Era's members were attacked and killed by Blue Rain. After all members of Excellent Era died, Blue Rain attacked Sun Xiang together. They finally managed to kill him. Not long after that, Xiaotian, the expert swordsman from Blue Rain, visited Happy. It was an internet cafe where Yiqiu was working. Apparently, Xiaotian was also a Yiqiu's student while they were studying at the academy. Xiaotian was curious about why Yiqiu suddenly left Excellent Era. So, he agreed to help Yiqiu to break Excellent Era's record in defeating the boss monster. Then, Yiqiu and Xiaotian began to practice defeating the boss monster. They practiced for several times, but the results were still the same. They still couldn't break Excellent Era's last record with their scores. Yiqiu finally found a method that could make them kill the boss monster faster. Instead of killing the warrior monster, he threw it into the cliff. Because of that, they finally managed to kill the boss monster faster and broke Excellent Era's record. At the dormitory of Blue Rain apparently found out that Xiaotian had helped Lord Grimm to break Excellent Era's record. Xiaotian was surprised when he heard that. He remembered that he had used a fake account to hide his identity. The captain of Blue Rain then interrogated Xiaotian about what he had done that day. Xiaotian finally told him about Lord Grimm's real identity. He told him that Lord Grimm was actually Yiqiu. He also told him about Yiqiu's plan to return to the game tournament in the near future. After the captain of Blue Rain heard that, he told Xiaotian to make a copy of Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. It was an unspecialized weapon that belonged to Lord Grimm. He told Xiaotian to copy it because he wanted to study it. Then, Xiaotian went to the Happy Internet Cafe immediately. He asked Yiqiu to meet the captain of Blue Rain. Yiqiu agreed to go with him. Apparently, the captain of Blue Rain was also Yiqiu's student when they studied at the academy. When Yiqiu arrived at that place, the captain of Blue Rain asked him to fight him in a battle. He asked Yiqiu to use his Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. The time was over. The game finally ended. The captain of Blue Rain managed to defeat Lord Grimm. At the dormitory of Tiny Herb, there was an assassin called Qiao Yifan. He was a member of professional team in Tiny Herb. But he always ranked last in that team. Because of that, he was almost never selected to participate in any competition. Then, someone told the captain of Tiny Herb about Lord Grimm, the player who got famous lately. The captain of Tiny Herb thought that it was a good time to fight Lord Grimm as a practice to evaluate their team. After that, he gathered all members of Tiny Herb's professional team, including Yifan. They told him to attack and perform PK on Lord Grimm. PK was a practice to kill a player in the game. After a player was successfully killed with PK, they would lose some of his experience levels. So, they would go back to a lower level. Unfortunately, there was no computer left for Yifan to play Glory. Because of that, he had to play the game from a computer in a storeroom. At another place, Yiqiu managed to defeat all members of Tiny Herb who were attacking him. He was helped by Little Tang and Bao Zi. Yiqiu noticed Yifan in the game. He was interested in Yifan's playing style. At the dormitory of Tiny Herb, the captain of Tiny Herb reminded his team that they were going to defeat the Legend of Glory, who was Yiqiu. His team was surprised when they heard that. The captain of Tiny Herb found out that Lord Grimm was actually Yiqiu based on how he played. After that, he called Yifan to his room. He told Yifan to go back to the academy because he didn't make any improvement. Yifan was sad when he heard that. He then packed his things, left the dormitory of Tiny Herb, and returned to the academy to have another training. At the academy, after a while, Yifan's mentor told Yifan that he had improved a lot. But since the pro players at Tiny Herb were also very competent, there was still no chance for Yifan to return to Tiny Herb. Yifan was desperate when he heard that. He thought that he wouldn't make any improvement in the academy. So, he contacted Lord Grimm and consulted about his problem to him. Yi Qiu told Yifan that his best ability was his general understanding. He said that it was a very rare talent. Even though this ability couldn't make him defeat their enemies, it was a very needed skill for a team captain. So, Yifan could use this ability to help his team to win. At the dormitory of Tiny Herb, the captain of Tiny Herb saw that Yi Qiu's account was still online in Glory. So, he decided to text him. He asked Yi Qiu to train the Tiny Herb's players with him. Yi Qiu asked Little Tang to become their opponent in their next practice. He said that Little Tang also needed this practice to improve her skill. The next morning, Bao Zi accidentally hit Yifan with his motorcycle. After they got to know each other, they found out that they both were Glory players. Bao Zi was excited when he heard that. Then, he asked Yifan to go with him to Happy Internet Cafe. At Happy Internet Cafe, Bao Zi, Yifan, Yi Qiu, and Little Tang finally met each other for the first time. But Bao Zi and Little Tang still had no idea that Yi Qiu was actually a former captain of Excellent Era who was very famous. Only Yifan who knew about it. While Yifan was having a serious conversation with Yi Qiu recognized another hidden talent of Yifan. He realized that Yifan was able to read and understand the situation around his team. So, he suggested Yifan to switch his role in the game. He told him to change his role from the assassin to the supporter. Yifan was thinking about Yi Qiu's suggestion, but he was getting confused. He wanted to reach his full potential and get the best result when he was playing Glory. But he couldn't just change his role like that because there had been a player with the role of supporter in his team. At another place, Lord Grimm, Bao Zi, and Little Tang were shopping for equipment in the central part of the city in Glory. But while they were heading to the woods, they were suddenly attacked by a guild of Excellent Era. Apparently, the captain of Excellent Era's guild wanted to take revenge on Yi Qiu because he felt hurt by him. Lord Grimm and his team were struggling in fighting the guild of Excellent Era. But suddenly, Yifan came to save them with his new account. It seemed that he had changed his role as a supporter. Even though they hadn't had practice before, he managed to coordinate well with the rest of the team. After Lord Grimm's team and the Guild of Excellent Era fought for a while in a fierce battle, the Guild of Excellent Era finally decided to retreat. Because of this battle, Yifan felt like he had found himself again. He thought that the role of a supporter really suited him well. Apparently, the journalist who was obsessed with Yi Qiu had his own guild. It was called the Guild of Munmun. Guild of Munmun was facing a crisis situation because they couldn't compete against other guilds to break the record in fighting the boss monster. There were only 30 members left in his guild. Because of that, his guild was in danger. It could be disbanded at any moment. So, the desperate journalist asked Yi Qiu to help him and his team to set a new record in fighting the boss monster. He said that he would pay Yi Qiu for his help with anything that Yi Qiu wanted. He didn't care if he had to sacrifice his personal equipment. Yi Qiu felt bad for him. So, he only asked him to pay him with a rare spear. He planned to give that rare spear to Little Tang. There was a Glory player who always rented a VIP room at Happy Internet Cafe. He rented that room to study all elements in the game, such as the monsters and the characters. He carefully studied those elements, especially Lord Grimm. At another place, some captains of the great guilds were having a meeting. They talked about Lord Grimm. They complained about him and thought that he was very money-oriented. It was because Yi Qiu was willing to help any guild, whether it was a big or small one, as long as they paid him with rare item or equipment. Because of that, all guilds competed against each other to pay Yi Qiu with higher price. It created tension between those guilds. Meanwhile, Yi Qiu was the only party who benefited from that situation. So, those captains gathered all of their best players and told them to attack Lord Grimm and his team. Then, those players came to a place and logged into Glory immediately. They quickly attacked their target before Lord Grimm and his team managed to meet and unite with each other. Lord Grimm and his team managed to avoid those attacks except Little Tang. While her character was under attack, Little Tang was busy reading a dinner recipe. Because of that, her character died immediately. She also lost her new weapon because her enemy took it. Meanwhile, Lord Grimm was helped by Xiaotian, the expert swordsman from Blue Rain. They parted ways to divide their enemies. Xiaotian managed to defeat some enemies at once. But suddenly, while he was fighting his enemy, his favorite sword was broken. He saw his enemy was also a swordsman like him. So, he chased him immediately to attack him and steal his sword. After that, he came to Lord Grimm's place. He and Lord Grimm finally managed to kill all of their enemies there. At another place, while Bao Zi was running away from his enemies, he accidentally fell into an old well. While he was trapped inside of that old well, a summoner called Luo Ji suddenly appeared and approached him. Apparently, Luo Ji was the person who always rented a VIP room at Happy Internet Cafe. Luo Ji recognized Bao Zi right away. He knew Bao Zi because Bao Zi was famous for breaking new records with Lord Grimm. Not long after that, the enemies found their hiding place. Bao Zi and Luo Ji ran away from that old well together right away. Sima Cheng and Yifan played with their second accounts. Because of that, nobody knew about their true identities. Their enemies underestimated them because they thought that they were only amateurs. But Sima Cheng and Yifan worked together and managed to defeat their enemies. At the city, Little Tang planned to attack two teams at once. She was confident that she could attack them by herself. Yi Qiu told her to wait for him and their team, but she didn't listen to him. Surprisingly, Little Tang managed to defeat those teams. After that, Lord Grimm and his team gathered on a hill. They met dozens of their enemies from the 6 great guilds there. Lord Grimm and his team tried to run away because they were running out of their energy. But Little Tang told them that she needed to take her weapon back. When her character died early, her weapon was stolen by her enemy. After Yi Qiu heard that, he asked his team if they wanted to help Little Tang or not. His team immediately said that they were willing to help their teammate. After that, the war between Lord Grimm and his team and the 6 great guilds finally began. While they were running toward their enemy, Luo Ji was healing their energy. Because of his help, Lord Grimm and his team managed to regain their energy. They managed to attack their enemies. When the enemies began to lose their energy, Lord Grimm and his team used the strategy of 4-4-2. They finally managed to defeat all members of the guilds. There was only one enemy left. He was the captain of the Excellent Era's guild. He was the one who stole Little Tang's weapon. Little Tang fought him right away. Xiao Tian wanted to help Little Tang, but Yi Qiu stopped him immediately. He wanted Little Tang to take care of him alone. Even though Little Tang only used simple weapon, she managed to kill her enemy easily. After that, she took her weapon back. After they lost in that war, the best players from the 6 guilds were angry at the captain of Excellent Era's guild. It was because he was the one who led their ambush. They blamed him for their loss. Because of their loss, they had to lose their experience levels. The captain of Excellent Era's guild got frustrated because of that. After that war, Luo Ji, the genius summoner who had helped Lord Grimm and his team to win that war, decided to join Lord Grimm's team. He was hired as their strategist. After that, they went out together to celebrate their victory. Sima Cheng and Little Tang also joined them. When Yi Qiu saw their team together, he suddenly had an idea to build a new team and return to the game tournament. At another place, Excellent Era was holding a press conference again about why Yi Qiu left their team. They had been weighted by Excellent Era's fans who was mad at them because they kept losing after Yi Qiu left the team. Tao, Excellent Era's manager and Yi Qiu's childhood friend, tried to calm them down. He told the public that Yi Qiu left the team because it was his own intention. So, the club couldn't do anything but to support his decision. Guigua was attending that press conference. As a Yi Qiu's diehard fan, Guigua was very sad when she found out that Yi Qiu had left Excellent Era. It was hard for her to believe in what Tao had said. She hoped that even though Yi Qiu had left the team, she could still meet him someday. At the dormitory of Tyranny, the captain of the guild reported about their loss in the war to the vice captain of Tyranny. He didn't report directly to the team captain because he was afraid of getting scolded. Their team captain was known as a fierce person. And unlike even though the vice captain of Tyranny was a very serious and disciplined person, he didn't get angry at him. After that, the guild of Tyranny began to make an attack on Yi Qiu. But as usual, Yi Qiu managed to defeat the members of the Guild of Tyranny easily. Then, Yi Qiu met the Vice Captain of Tyranny. Turned out, they knew each other. The Vice Captain of Tyranny asked Yi Qiu to make an agreement with him. He asked him to fight Tyranny in a battle. If Lord Grimm and his team lost this time, they wouldn't be allowed to make an attack on the boss monster anymore. Without those attacks, Yi Qiu wouldn't be able to find some items to upgrade his weapon anymore. But Yi Qiu accepted that challenge right away. He was determined to win this game. After the Vice Captain of Tyranny found out that Lord Grimm was actually Yi Qiu, he reported it to the Captain of Tyranny immediately. The Captain of Tyranny was called Han Wenqing. He was one of the veterans in Glory. Like Yi Qiu, he also started to play Glory 10 years ago. He had been Yi Qiu's nemesis since then. His role in the game was a brawler. Since he hadn't seen Ichio for a long time, he wanted to find out about what he was doing these days. So, he decided to participate in the battle. At Happy Internet Cafe, Ichio rented the VIP room to have a meeting with his team. In that meeting, he explained about the strategy that they would use during their fight with Tyranny later. He also told them about what kind of team Tyranny was. He said that Tyranny was very aggressive. The battle between Lord Grimm and Tyranny finally began. After they played for a while, Ichio realized that Tyranny had a great healer. When Lord Grimm and his team tried to drain Tyranny's energy, their healer healed their energy immediately. Because of that, it was difficult for Lord Grimm and his team to defeat them. Lord Grimm's team got frustrated because of it. Suddenly, Ichio had an idea. He planned to kidnap a Tyranny member and attack him in an area that Tyranny's healer couldn't reach. Lord Grimm and his team thought that they had managed to defeat Lord Grimm and his team. But suddenly, Han Wenqing appeared and attacked them with Meteor Storm. After that, he defeated Bao Zi, Yifan, and Little Tang. He purposely defeated them first because he wanted to have a talk with Ichio. Wenqing asked Ichio about what happened in Excellent Era. He wanted to know if Ichio really quitted the team or he was fired by the club. Ichio didn't answer him straightly. He just told him that he was going to return to the game tournament in the near future. Lord Grimm and his team finally lost the battle. According to the agreement that they had made with Tyranny, it meant that they couldn't make an attack on the boss monster anymore. So, Ichio tried to find another way to find some items to upgrade his weapon. He decided to sell a handbook that Luo Ji had made. The handbook was about how to break a new record to fight the boss monster. People who bought those copies of handbook had to give them rare materials as the return. Meanwhile, Little Tang began to be suspicious of Ichio. Because of the last battle with Tyranny, Little Tang suspected that Ichio wasn't just a random player. In an interview, Wenqing told the media that Ichio didn't give up and would return to the game tournament in the near future. Guigua was happy when she heard that. She couldn't wait to come to the tournament and support Ichio again. Guigua thought that Ichio would return to Excellent Era. So, she bought a ticket of an all-star match. In that all-star match, the juniors and the seniors would fight each other in one-on-one competitions. At a mini-market, Su Muching asked Ichio to come to the all-star match that was going to be held soon. She gave 3 tickets of the all-star match to him. At Happy Internet Cafe, Guigua was mad because all tickets of the all-star match had been sold. She called her friend who was also a scalper to get her a ticket, but that friend also couldn't do that. Ichio saw that and decided to give one of his tickets to her. Guigua was happy because of that. The next morning, Guigua, Ichio, and Little Tang went to that all-star match together. As soon as they arrived there, Guigua ran a merchandise stall there. Suddenly, her friend, the scalper, appeared and approached her. Her friend told her that Ichio had quit Excellent Era and wouldn't return to the team. Then, he asked his friends to help him to get rid of Guigua's stall. Guigua was sad because of that. So, Ichio tried to cheer her up. He asked her about the definition of an idol to her. He asked if the meaning of an idol to her was the person himself, his words, or his spirit. When Guigua heard that, she finally realized that she had been admiring Ichio's spirit all this time. She liked how Ichio made the impossible became possible. At another place, Yifan planned to participate in the all-star match. He registered himself as a participant there. He wanted to show his new skill to the captain of Tiny Herb. Before the match began, Su Muching approached Ichio and his friends. She sat with them in the spectator seats. Guigua was happy when she saw that. She couldn't believe that she could meet Su Muching. The all-star match finally began. 6 big esports teams were participating in that match. Tiny Herb was going to participate in the first competition. Yifan's good friend would fight the captain of Tiny Herb. He was the junior player, meanwhile the captain of Tiny Herb was the senior player. During the game, it looked like the junior was struggling to defeat his senior. He kept avoiding and hiding from the captain of Tiny Herb since the beginning of the game. When the captain of Tiny Herb found him, he ran away immediately. The captain of Tiny Herb chased and kept attacking him. Yifan's good friend was struggling because of that. He didn't have a chance to attack him back. Then, he found another chance to hide. The captain of Tiny Herb was tired with this cat and mouse game. So, he burned the woods so his junior would get out of his hiding place. Because his energy kept getting drained, Yifan's friend had no choice but to get out of his hiding place. He had to fight the captain of Tiny Herb no matter what. Turned out, this competition was a part of the captain of Tiny Herb's plan. He had planned to lose the game to boost his junior's self-confidence. He wanted his junior to believe that he could replace him as the captain of Tiny Herb in the future. In the second competition, Yifan from Tiny Herb was going to fight a captain from Void. Void wasn't a famous and great team. In spite of that, that captain was well known as the best supporter in the Glory Professional Alliance. The role of a supporter was a little bit different from other roles in Glory. A supporter wasn't really great in one-on-one competition, so they needed to depend on the battlefield. The captain of Void finally found the best spot in the battlefield. Then, he kept attacking Yifan relentlessly. He didn't give a chance for Yifan to breathe. Yifan finally managed to attack him back. But turned out it was only a part of the captain of Void's plan. He purposely let Yifan attack him once so he could trick him into thinking that he could win. Once Yifan was off guard, the captain of Void attacked him again and defeated him. As expected, Yifan lost the game. He looked so pressured when the journalists asked him some rude questions. Yi Qiu met him immediately. He told him that what he did was wrong. He didn't like how Yifan participated in the match just because he wanted to show off. He was mad because Yifan didn't even talk to him about this. In the third competition, Sun Xian from Excellent Era was going to fight Han Wenqing from Tyranny. During the game, Wenqing remembered that Yi Qiu was going to return to the game tournament. He was bothered by that thought that he couldn't focus on the game. Because of that, Sun Xian managed to attack him easily. Then, Sun Xian mocked Han Wenqing. He said that Wenqing was already too old for the game and he needed to quit his job. Han Wenqing was mad when he heard that. He focused back on the game and did his best to fight Sun Xian. He finally managed to win the game. After Sun Xian got off the stage, the journalists asked him a few questions. Sun Xian was annoyed because those journalists always compared him to Yi Qiu. He said that he lost his game because he wasn't lucky. In the fourth competition, a lucky spectator was going to fight a Glory Pro player. A spectator would be randomly chosen to fight a pro player from professional team. Turned out, Little Tang was chosen as the lucky spectator. She was going to fight a player from Excellent Era. When Little Tang was on the stage, they showed Little Tang's account on the screen. It showed that her account was made in less than a month. Because of that, people thought that she was going to be defeated easily. But turned out, during the game, the player from Excellent Era was struggling to fight Little Tang. Sun Xian was mad when he saw that. He wouldn't let his subordinate be defeated by a random player. So, he volunteered to replace his subordinate in the game. Suddenly, Yi Qiu noticed a big difference from the way the player from Excellent Era played the game. He realized that they had changed the player secretly. Because of that, he also volunteered to replace Little Tang in the game. Then, the fierce battle between Yi Qiu and Sun Xian began. When Sun Xian tried to attack Yi Qiu changed the direction of his attack and avoided Sun Xian's attack. It was Yi Qiu's signature when he was still a Glory Pro player. Because of that, Yi Qiu managed to defeat Sun Xian with his ultimate power. Within win, Yi Qiu felt the same great happiness and excitement that he used to experience when he won the competition back then. During the game, the journalists noticed Yi Qiu's signature. So, as soon as the competition was over, they rushed to the stage together. They knew that Yi Qiu was the one who played the game. But when they arrived there, they didn't see Yi Qiu anywhere. After watching that competition, Guiguo realized something. She realized that Yi Qiu, the worker who was working at her internet cafe, was actually her idol. She was happy because of that. The captains of the big esports teams were also happy because Yi Qiu had returned to the game tournament. They couldn't wait to compete against Yi Qiu in the competitions again. At the hotel, Guiguo was excited to see Yi Qiu. She still couldn't believe that Yi Qiu was her idol. She couldn't stop blushing at the thought of meeting him. When Guiguo and the others returned to Happy Internet Cafe, they were surprised to see many journalists there. Those journalists rushed to Yi Qiu and his group as soon as they saw them. Guiguo thought that they wanted to interview Yi Qiu. So, she protected Yi Qiu immediately. But apparently, it was not them that those journalists were after. Those journalists were only hanging out in that cafe to charge their phones. They saw Tao and Sun Xian outside of the internet cafe and they ran toward them. They knew that Sun Xian would be around because the office of Excellent Era was near that internet cafe. At the office of Excellent Era, the commissioner of Excellent Era heard that Yi Qiu had returned to the game tournament. Because Sun Xian was defeated by Yi Qiu in the last competition, he began to think that he made a mistake. He regretted his decision to replace Yi Qiu with Sun Xian. At Happy Internet Cafe, Yi Qiu began to wear his black mask again. He did that so he would be recognized by the journalist who often visited that cafe. His strategy finally worked. That journalist approached and asked him about who he was. Yiqiu told him to ask Guogua about it. So, that journalist approached Guogua. He told Guogua that he suspected that Yiqiu was the famous Glory Pro player. Guogua refused to tell him about the truth. She wanted to protect Yiqiu. Not long after that, Yiqiu received a call from Tao. Tao asked him to come to the office of Excellent Era. He admitted that he had made a mistake to replace Yiqiu with Sun Xiang. So, he asked Yiqiu to return to Excellent Era. Tao told Yiqiu that he had to replace him with Sun Xiang because of the business. He had to replace him with Sun Xiang to attract public attention. He said that esports business wasn't only about winning, but also about attracting public attention. Yiqiu was well known as a good team player. So, he would encourage his team to defeat his enemies together. If they won that game, nobody would talk about their victory. But it was different if the team was led by Sun Xiang. Sun Xiang wasn't a good team player. He wouldn't mind if the rest of his team died. He could defeat his enemies alone. And, if he won, the world would be talking about their victory. It was uncommon for a player to defeat 5 players alone. That was why Tao replaced Yiqiu with Sun Xiang. Yiqiu tried to understand Tao's reason. But he rejected Tao's offer to return to Excellent Era immediately. He told him that he had his own team and he would return to the game tournament with his new team. Tao was disappointed with his decision. So, he got rid of all computers that he, Yiqiu, and Sumuqiu used back then. Those were the computers that had made them who they were today. When Yiqiu saw one of those computers, he had a flashback. He remembered the time when he and Sumuqiu were inventing Myriad Manifestation Umbrella together. It seemed that Yiqiu had been interested in non-specialized weapons since he was a child. But because of Tao, Sumuqiu cancelled his plan to create his own non-specialized weapon. He deleted all materials that he used to create Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. Because of that, Myriad Manifestation Umbrella returned to level 1. Then, he put that weapon inside of an old box. After that, Sumuqiu told Yiqiu that he failed to create Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. Yiqiu was disappointed when he heard that. To cheer Yiqiu up, Sumuqiu asked him for a challenge. If one of them became the best player, he would be allowed to use Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. Yiqiu smiled when he remembered those memories. He finally managed to use that non-specialized weapon. Then, he checked that computer. He found a book that belonged to Sumuqiu there. He was surprised when he read that book. There was a tutorial on how to perfect the Myriad Manifestation Umbrella that was written by Sumuqiu. To perfect Myriad Manifestation Umbrella, one needed to complete a quest. They had to climb the top of a tower. Usually, the players who could climb the top of the tower were the top pro players with god-level accounts. To complete that quest perfectly, a player couldn't be attacked by any monster, not even once. If they were attacked by a monster, then he would fail the quest. Because of that, to avoid those monsters, Yiqiu decided to climb the outside part of the tower. It seemed like Yiqiu was struggling to complete that quest. But suddenly, when he was almost defeated, he unlocked a new weapon. That weapon was a propeller. With his new propeller, Yiqiu finally managed to avoid those monsters and fly to the top of the tower. When Yiqiu arrived at the top of the tower, he saw his old friends from other big esports teams had been waiting for him there. They came to that place because they wanted to try Myriad Manifestation Umbrella that had been perfected by Yiqiu. At Happy Internet Cafe, Guogua found out about Yiqiu's plan to return to the game tournament. Because of that, she was interested in participating in the tournament with Yiqiu's team. But then, she realized that she wasn't really good in playing Glory. So, she couldn't join Yiqiu's team as a player. Guogua then decided to become the manager of Yiqiu's team. But she wasn't sure about her decision because she was too insecure. At another place, Yiqiu asked Sumuqing's help to register his name in the next tournament. It was a Challenger League, a tournament that was smaller than the main tournament like Yiqiu usually participated in. To become a professional team, an esports team needed to become a winner in this Challenger League. Not only that, they also needed to create a guild and have some members if they wanted to join the championship. The next afternoon, Yiqiu met a captain of Tiny Herb. He wanted to talk about Yifan's progress. The captain of Tiny Herb wanted to know about Yiqiu's new team. So, Yiqiu asked him to go to Happy Internet Cafe with him. He planned to make that internet cafe as his team's base camp someday. When they arrived there, Yiqiu planned to make Guogua volunteer herself as his team's manager. So, the captain of Tiny Herb and Yiqiu teased Guogua. The captain of Tiny Herb pretended to ask Yiqiu to join his team. As Yiqiu had expected, Guigua was mad when she heard that. She didn't want Ichio to join Tiny Herb. She insisted on being Ichio's manager. In order to become Ichio's team's manager, Ichio told Guigua to complete some tasks first. The first task that Guigua had to do was creating a guild. Esports teams usually chose cool names as their guilds, but Guigua chose the incomparable Great Guild as the name of her guild instead. After that, Guigua had to do the second task, which was recruiting people to become the members of her guild. To attract people to join her guild, she would reward new members in her guild with valuable gifts. After she managed to have 300 first members in her guild, she registered her guild in the system. She planned to upgrade her guild to the next level. To upgrade her guild to the next level, they needed to complete a mission first. Guigua accepted that mission immediately. She had no idea that it was a difficult mission. In that mission, Ichio and his team had to defeat a powerful boss monster that was almost impossible to be defeated by them with their current strength. Ichio was surprised when he heard that, especially when he found out that he had to complete the mission in 2 hours. If they failed to do that mission, the guild that they had been registered would be removed by the system. But Ichio and his team had no other option. They had to do that mission immediately. They finally began to attack the boss monster. As Ichio had expected, he and his team failed in their first attack. During the game, Ichio noticed that some members of the guild purposely missed their attacks. Turned out, those members were the captains of the great guilds. They disguised themselves as the members of Ichio's guild to sabotage Ichio's plan to create a new team. Because of that failure, Guigua learned that she needed to be more careful next time. She was really pressured by their team's failure. It was her first time to bear such responsibility as a team manager. Then, Luoji told Ichio about his new strategy. He had been calculating that strategy carefully. Ichio and his team began to attack the boss monster again before their time was over. During that game, Ichio attacked the monster relentlessly until it got cornered. It was a part of Ichio and Luoji's strategy. Luoji noticed that the attacks from the fake members who purposely missed their attacks kept hitting the wall. So, they needed to get the boss monster near that wall and wait. In the last minutes, the big stone finally collapsed and fell on the boss monster. The boss monster died instantly because of that. After that, Ichio and his team celebrated their victory. They drank orange juices together. At another place, Guigua was still pressured and sad because of her team's first failure. She felt like she had failed to become a manager. Then, she returned to her internet cafe. She told Ichio that she genuinely supported him and his new team. She would support them even though she was fired as their team manager. Ichio smiled when he heard Guigua's sincere words. He then told her that they won in their first mission. So, he decided to appoint Guigua as their official manager. He also told Guigua to change their guild's name as Happy Guild. After that, Ichio lured the captain of Blue Rain's guild into coming to Happy Internet Cafe. He wanted him to teach Guigua on how to pass the certification exam to become a professional team manager. A few months later, the numbers of the members of Ichio's guild had increased. In New Year holiday, Bao Zi, Little Tang, and Yifun returned to their hometowns to spend the holiday with their family. While Ichio was strolling around the mall, he suddenly saw a man who looked exactly like him. That man was dressed nicely in a black suit. Guigua also saw him. When she approached him, she was confused with his strange behavior. So, she asked Su Muching if Ichio had dissociative identity disorder. Apparently, that man was Ichio's twin brother. He was called Ichio. He came to Happy Internet Cafe to ask Ichio to return to their hometown. Their father was the one who sent him there. Turned out, Ichio came from a wealthy family. And since Ichio and his team needed an investor to invest in their new guild, they planned to trick Ichio. They wanted Ichio to invest in their new guild. After spending some time there, Ichio realized that his twin brother was already happy with his life. So, he decided to return to their hometown alone. He brought his favorite childhood toy with him. At the dormitory of Excellent Era, Sun Xian was busy training his ultimate power. He was frustrated because of his loss in the All-Star match yesterday. A few days later, Guigua told Ichio that she passed her certification exam. Not long after that, Little Tang, Bao Zi, and Yifun returned to Happy Internet Cafe. They had returned from their holiday. They asked Ichio and Guigua to go out with them. In that restaurant, Ichio and the others gave their glory account cards to Guigua. It was a symbol to appoint Guigua as their official manager. After they finished eating in that restaurant, they went to the stadium to watch a competition between Excellent Era and Thunderclap. Thunderclap was well known as a one-man show. It was because their captain, Xiao Shichin, was the only one who was known in that team. He was known as one of the 4 master tacticians in the Glory Professional Alliance. During that game, it showed that the rest of Thunderclap's members were struggling to collaborate with Shichin. Because of that, Thunderclap got the lowest rank in the Glory Professional Alliance. Meanwhile, Excellent Era got the second lowest rank the Glory Professional Alliance because of their consecutive losses in the competitions. Because of their low ranks, this competition decided the fates of those 2 teams in the Glory Professional Alliance. The team who lost in this competition wouldn't be allowed to join the championship next year. Sun Xiang underestimated Thunderclap because they got the lowest rank in the Glory Professional Alliance. So, he showed off his new skill to them immediately. Turned out, his new skill was similar with Yi Qiu's signature. He wanted to show off that he could do anything that Yi Qiu did. But he forgot that his enemy was Xiao Shichin, one of the 4 master tacticians in the Glory Professional Alliance. Once Xiao Shichin found out about his enemy's weakness, he would use that weakness to attack him badly. Not long after that, Sun Xiang knew that he had to pay for his arrogance. He and his team lost in that competition. Because of that, Excellent Era wouldn't be able to join the main game tournament next year. They had to join the Challenger League instead. Excellent Era's fans were mad when they found out about that. After that, Su Muqing came out of the room. She sincerely apologized to the fans and the journalists. Meanwhile, at another place, instead of celebrating their victory, Xiao Shichin decided to leave Thunderclap. Apparently, he had been recruited by Tao, the manager of Excellent Era, to join Excellent Era. Yi Qiu felt bad for Su Muqing because of what happened to her team. So, he decided to cheer her up. He asked her to play with him in a map that was made by Su Muqiu. Then, Yi Qiu and Su Muqing visited a mysterious chapter in that map. That mysterious chapter was the Easter egg that was made by Su Muqiu. Su Muqing told Yi Qiu that she couldn't enjoy playing Glory anymore when she was playing with Excellent Era. Not long after that, Xiao Shichin finally moved to the dormitory of Excellent Era. It seemed like Xiao Shichin and Su Muqing had known each other for a long time. Tao recruited Xiao Shichin to Excellent Era because he believed that Xiao Shichin would bring the best out of the team, especially Sun Xiang. He wanted Xiao Shichin to control Sun Xiang. Not long after that, the time for the esports teams to register themselves in the next Challenger League finally came. Yi Qiu's team, Happy, went to the stadium to register themselves. They met many famous esports athletes there, including Excellent Era, which had been eliminated from the main tournament next year. Then, Yi Qiu had a conversation with Xiao Shichin. It seemed like Xiao Shichin and Yi Qiu had also known each other for a long time. The next day, Happy prepared themselves to participate in the next competition. In that competition, they were going to compete against great teams to prove their competence. Turned out, their chosen enemy for the first competition was Tiny Herb. Since Yifan was a former member of Tiny Herb, he exactly knew about the weaknesses of that team. He told his team that they were going to need a healer to defeat Tiny Herb. So, Happy listed 10 best healers in the Glory Professional Alliance. Out of those 10 healers, they chose the one who was good at removing the buff. The buff was a skill to reduce the enemy's power. As example, if someone had 100 powers, then he would have 40 powers left after he was attacked by the buff. In other words, it was a skill to weaken the enemy. The healer whom Happy chose was called Wenyi. He became a Glory player because he wanted to earn money. At the office of Excellent Era, Xiao Shichin finally found the best strategy to play in the next competition. He felt like he had great power in his hands. At Happy Internet Cafe, Yi Qiu decided to choose Yifan as the vice captain of Happy. He chose him because of his passion and dedication to compete in Glory. Then, he told him to interview Wenyi. During the interview, while Wenyi was talking about the pay with Yifan, Yi Qiu suddenly came there. He met him to see his competence in playing Glory. After Wenyi played Glory for a while, Yi Qiu found out that Wenyi didn't know how to do the buff. But he saw that he was really great in healing and understanding the situation. Apparently, Wenyi cheated his way to become one of the 10 greatest healers in the Glory Professional Alliance. He paid another person to replace him to play Glory. But Yi Qiu and his friends had no idea about it. Wenyi was finally accepted as the 6th member of Happy. Then, to equip Wenyi with weapons, Yi Qiu asked his team to steal weapons from other players who died when they attacked the boss monster. They couldn't buy weapons for Wenyi because they didn't have enough resources. Then, Yi Qiu attacked a player to create chaos. He wanted to divide the enemies who came from different guilds. By attacking a random player, He hoped that it could create conflict between those members of great guilds. When they were about to pick a weapon from a dead player, they saw an assassin who used the same strategy that they used to steal the weapon. Yichio chased that assassin immediately. That assassin fought Yichio back. Turned out he was pretty great in fighting, but Yichio finally managed to defeat him. Meanwhile, the members of great guilds finally found out that Happy was the one who created this whole chaos. They attacked the members of Happy immediately. And Wenny didn't care about those attacks. He was busy picking up the weapons from the dead players. Yifan, who saw Wenny alone, thought that he had to protect him. Because of that, the members of great guilds knew that they came from the same team. They attacked the members of Happy together. After that attack, Yifan thought that he wasn't ready to be the vice captain of Happy. The role of vice captain made him feel like he had to take many important decisions. Because of that, he didn't think about his actions carefully. Their last failure in that attack also made Wenny plan to leave Happy. But after he had a conversation with Guigua, he cancelled his plan. And Wenny was touched by the motivation, vision, and mission of Happy that Guigua had told him. The day of the competition between Happy and Tiny Herb finally arrived. In the morning, when they were about to go to the stadium, they couldn't find Yifan anywhere. They thought that Yifan was too pressured by the competition, so he ran away. But apparently, Yifan was already in the stadium. He went to that place early because he had to do some research about the competitions that Tiny Herb had participated in. While when he was looking for Yifan, he met the captain of Excellent Era's Guild. The captain of Excellent Era's Guild offered him an interesting offer. He would give him some money if he would play very badly and made Happy lose in the competition. Since Wenny's motivation to play Glory was to earn money, he was tempted by that offer. He thought about that offer carefully. At another place, Yichio sent an email to Yifan. He told Yifan to play Glory and meet him in the game soon. He wanted to make Yifan believe in himself and get rid of his fear. The competition between Happy and Tiny Herb finally began. At the beginning of the game, Yichio's non-specialized game account was noticed by many people. Then, in order to win in that competition, the members of Happy needed to cross the finish line and get some points. Tiny Herb's job in that competition was to disturb and stop Happy from completing their missions. As soon as the game started, Tiny Herb attacked Happy from many directions to divide their team formation. Yifan planned to fight their enemies by himself. Meanwhile, the rest of his team continued their journey. He found a way to stop his enemies. He set a trap between the trees to stop his former captain in Tiny Herb. While Bao Zi and Little Tang were already halfway in reaching the finish line, they were hit with poisons by their enemies. And Wenny was nervous when he saw that. Even though his role in the game was a healer, he had no idea how to remove the buff. But Bao Zi and Little Tang kept asking him to remove their buffs. Their energy kept getting drained because of the poisons. And Wenny finally decided to heal Bao Zi and Little Tang as best as he could. But unfortunately, he was too late. Bao Zi and Little Tang had died because they ran out of energy. They died right before the finish line. Because of that, the members of Happy blamed each other. Yichio interrupted their fight. He told Wenny to heal the members who were still alive. Turned out, Wenny managed to heal them quickly. Because of that, the enemies were struggling to fight Yichio and Wenny. The members of Happy didn't blame Wenny for the deaths of Bao Zi and Little Tang in the game anymore. They praised him for his amazing healing skill instead. And Wenny was happy when he heard that. He thought that he had found the right team. And when he finally managed to reach the finish line, he was helped and protected by Yichio and Yifan. After the competition was over and when he finally made his decision, he decided to stay in Happy. He also told Yichio about the truth. He said that he couldn't remove the buff. Yichio said that he would teach Wenny on how to remove the buff if he chose to stay in Happy. In the next competition, Happy was going to compete against Blue Rain. Xiaotian told Yichio that the captain of Blue Rain had found the best strategy to defeat them in the next competition. Yichio had also thought about a strategy to divide Blue Rain. Then, Yichio asked his old friend, an experienced veteran in Glory, to help him in the next competition. His old friend was called Wei Chen. His role in the game was a warlock. When Yichio asked him to help him, he said that he didn't play the game anymore. He lied to Yichio that he was already rich. After that, Yichio and Wei Chen hacked each other's IP address. They wanted to know about how they were doing these days. Yichio finally found Wei Chen's base camp. When he arrived there, he met one of Wei Chen's subordinates. Wei Chen's subordinate told Yichio that someone once paid them to kill Lord Grimm. Then, Yi Qiu was looking around the base camp. He saw a replica of weapon there. It seemed like that replica was very precious to Wei Chen. At another place, Wei Chen also found Yi Qiu's base camp, which was Happy Internet Cafe. He met Guogua there. It seemed like Wei Chen was as good as Yi Qiu when it came to information searching. He asked Guogua about Yi Qiu's new team. Guogua told him that Happy consisted of 6 beginners who were equipped with basic weapons. Wei Chen was disappointed with that answer. Then, he asked Guogua about the location of Lord Grimm. But Guogua gave him Yi Qiu's signature instead. Wei Chen finally returned to his base camp with empty hands. His subordinates told him about the location of Lord Grimm. Yi Qiu was the one who told them about it when he visited Wei Chen's base camp. He planned to trap Wei Chen and his team. Wei Chen and Yi Qiu finally met in the game. When Wei Chen was about to attack Yi Qiu used the shadow technique and pretended like he fell into Wei Chen's trap. When Yi Qiu was attacked by Wei Chen's subordinates, he realized that Yifan had helped him since the game started. Then, Yi Qiu told Yifan to attack Wei Chen. Wei Chen tried to incite Yifan to betray Yi Qiu, but his strategy didn't work. Yifan finally managed to defeat him. After Wei Chen's character died, Yifan and Yi Qiu picked up his weapon immediately. They were lucky because that weapon had reached maximum level. Wei Chen was mad because of his loss. He had no other option but to meet Yi Qiu at Happy Internet Cafe. So, the next day, he came there with his subordinates. They were dressed in black suits as if they were gangsters. The members of Happy teased Wei Chen. They pretended to plan to destroy Wei Chen's precious weapon if Wei Chen refused to help them in the next competition. After Wei Chen heard that fake conversation, he finally agreed to help Yi Qiu and his team. In their first training session, Wei Chen challenged all members of Happy to compete against him in climbing the tower. During the game, Wei Chen decided to slow down and let other members to climb the tower first. In spite of that, the differences of experience and mentality between Wei Chen and the members of Happy were clearly shown. Turned out, Wei Chen let the members of Happy climb the tower first because he needed to use them as his stepping stones. The day of the competition between Happy and Blue Rain finally arrived. Apparently, Wei Chen was actually a former captain of Blue Rain. Yi Qiu purposely asked Wei Chen to help him in the competition to defeat Blue Rain. He thought that it would be funny if Blue Rain competed against their former senior. When Wei Chen and Xiaotian met each other, Yi Qiu noticed that Xiaotian's big mouth came from Wei Chen. Before the competition began, Yi Qiu gave a random basic weapon to Wei Chen to defeat Blue Rain. But Wei Chen wouldn't join him to play Glory. He would be just watching his juniors fighting with each other. Then, the game started. Xiaotian tried to attack Yi Qiu with his big mouth skill. But Yi Qiu attacked him back and hanged him on the wall. At another place, Wei Chen began to get annoyed because he was being constantly attacked by his enemies. So, he decided to fight the enemies with Yifan and Baozi. The 3 of them finally managed to defeat the enemy's tanker easily. But while they were heading to the finish line, they were suddenly stopped by 3 members of Blue Rain. Wei Chen used his big mouth skill to defeat them. When Wei Chen was heading to the finish line to follow Yi Qiu, Baozi, and Yifan, he was suddenly attacked by his enemy. His enemy was the captain of Blue Rain. It seemed like Wei Chen and the captain of Blue Rain had known each other for a long time. In the past, Wei Chen was the captain of Blue Rain. In a training session where juniors compete against their seniors, Wei Chen was defeated by Yuan Zhou for many times. Yuan Zhou was the captain of Blue Rain in the present time. Wei Chen was embarrassed and traumatized because of that incident. Because of that, he decided to quit his job as the captain of Blue Rain. So, Wei Chen made a special weapon to defeat Yuan Zhou. But unfortunately, Yi Qiu had stolen that special weapon. He gave him a random weapon to defeat Blue Rain instead. Wei Chen was mad at Yi Qiu because of that. And suddenly, they both had a fight. Instead of attacking Blue Rain, they both attacked each other near the buildings. But apparently, it was only Yi Qiu and Wei Chen's plan to trick their enemies. They purposely hit the buildings so those buildings would collapse. When those buildings collapsed, Yi Qiu and his team were running fast to the finish line. They finally managed to cross the finish line. After that, Yi Qiu gave Wei Chen's special weapon to Wei Chen back. He told Wei Chen that Wei Chen wouldn't perform well if he was too depending on his special weapon. After the competition, Wei Chen decided to return to the game tournament and join Happy. He missed the game tournament. He also liked how the members of Happy were very supportive of him. After that, Wei Chen met the captain of Blue Rain. Yuan Zhou praised Wei Chen for the way he played when he still played in the professional league. He also thanked him for teaching and taking care of the members of Blue Rain when he was still the captain of Blue Rain. Because of him, he could have a great team now. The result of the competition was finally announced. Yifan was happy because his team passed in that competition even though they only got the lowest rank. At the dormitory of Excellent Era, Sun Xian worried when he saw the result of the competition. He worried because Happy also passed in that competition. Then, he called Yiqiu to his office. He asked him to compete against him in an exhibition game. Yiqiu accepted that challenge. Before the exhibition game began, Happy had a meeting at their base camp. Luo Ji explained that they had to target Xiao Shiqin during the game because he was the key member of Excellent Era. They needed someone who was fast like him. Yiqiu suddenly remembered about the assassin who stole Wendy's weapon when they attacked the boss monster a few days ago. So, he went to his Glory account and looked for him in the game. Yiqiu finally managed to find him. During their fight, that assassin had never said a word to him. It seemed like he was a shy and quiet person. After that, Wei Chen hacked the IP address of that assassin. He found out that the assassin was working at a coffee shop. So, Wei Chen, Yifan, and Yiqiu went to that coffee shop immediately. When they arrived there, they observed the situation for a while. They thought that the assassin was the manager of the coffee shop, the fat man who wore a white shirt. But suddenly, one of the employees there accidentally dropped his Glory account card. Yiqiu and his friends then found out that the assassin wasn't the manager of the coffee shop, but that employee. That employee was called Mo Fan. He had been working as a barista at that coffee shop for a few months. The manager of the coffee shop was trying to embezzle some money from that coffee shop. But suddenly, the owner of the coffee shop arrived. To save himself, the manager of the coffee shop blamed and accused all employees there. Then, Yiqiu decided to meet Mo Fan again in the game. He planned to disturb Mo Fan until he was willing to talk to him. During the game, Yiqiu attacked Mo Fan relentlessly. He didn't give a chance for Mo Fan to breathe. After Yiqiu threw Mo Fan to an old well, Mo Fan finally replied to his chat message. Yiqiu asked Mo Fan to come to Happy Internet Cafe. Mo Fan went to that place immediately. He finally arrived there. Yiqiu saw Mo Fan's arrival there as his agreement to join his team. Then, Yiqiu showed Mo Fan around the place. But apparently, the reason why Mo Fan came to Happy Internet Cafe was to steal Yiqiu's Glory account card. But Yiqiu had anticipated it. He had replaced his card with another Glory account card. After that, Yiqiu told Mo Fan to use Myriad Manifestation Umbrella when he played the game. If Mo Fan managed to use it and defeat a member of Happy with it, then he could have that non-specialized weapon. Yiqiu also promised that he would never disturb Mo Fan again. But, if Mo Fan lost in that game, then Mo Fan had to give his Glory account card to him. The Happy member who was going to compete against Mo Fan was Wei Chen. Technically, an assassin was greater at fighting than a warlock in one-on-one competition. But since Mo Fan, the assassin, used a non-specialized weapon which could be only used by a character from non-class, that advantage as an assassin would be nothing. The result would be like he didn't use any weapon at all. Because of that, Wei Chen managed to defeat Mo Fan easily. After Yiqiu saw Mo Fan lost in the game, he took his Glory account card immediately. Mo Fan was shocked when Yiqiu did that, but he couldn't say anything. Guogua then tried to cheer Mo Fan up. She told him about the meaning and the importance of a friendship. She told him about how she laughed and got angry when she played Glory with her friends. The next morning, Mo Fan returned to Happy Internet Cafe. He planned to take his Glory account card back. He told Wei Chen and Lao Zi about the secret maps in the game. With those secret maps, they could unlock a book about any techniques in Glory. The players could improve their skills by learning the techniques in that book. They learned those techniques for a few days. After that, Yiqiu and his team went to a restaurant to do team building activity. They saw the manager of the coffee shop where Mo Fan was working there. They also saw that man talking to Mo Fan. It seemed like the manager of the coffee shop had said something hurtful to Mo Fan. It was because after that conversation, Mo Fan sat alone at a table. The members of Happy thought that the manager of the coffee shop was being rude to Mo Fan. So, they planned to take revenge on him. Yiqiu told Little Tang to go to the bathroom and seduce that man. While that man was flirting with Little Tang, Yiqiu told Bao Zi to make that man's girlfriend go to the bathroom so she could see them. While that man and his girlfriend were gone, Wei Chen approached the owner of the coffee shop. He told him about the embezzlement of the coffee shop's money that was committed by his manager. After that, Wendy and Yifan put some chili powder into that man's drink. Mo Fan smiled when he saw the members of Happy playing those pranks on the manager of the coffee shop. He felt like he finally found a family who was willing to protect each other. While Ichio and his team were heading back to Happy Internet Cafe, Ichio gave Mo Fan's Glory account card back to Mo Fan. At the coffee shop, Mo Fan was thinking about the time he had spent with Happy. Then, he decided to return to Happy Internet Cafe and join Happy as a member. A few days later, the exhibition game between Happy and Excellent Era began. The members of Happy were surprised when they found out that Sun Xian wouldn't play in the first battle. So, they needed to change their strategy right away. As soon as the battle started, Happy sent their healer to lure Excellent Era into a place. While the members of Excellent Era were following the healer of Happy, Happy suddenly tried to attack Xiao Shurqin in the middle of the map. But Xiao Shurqin managed to avoid those attacks because he was very fast. He thought that he couldn't fight the members of Happy alone. So, he ran away immediately. But the members of Happy had anticipated that. They had sent their assassin, Mo Fan, to catch and attack Mo Fan while he was running away. But Xiao Shurqin had also anticipated this. He realized that there were only 4 members of Happy who attacked him. So, he used his drone to look for the missing member of Happy. He finally managed to find him. Turned out, Mo Fan was really close to him. He had been waiting to attack him. Xiao Shurqin and Mo Fan finally fought each other. Xiao Shurqin was struggling to defeat Mo Fan. So, he ran away from that place immediately once he had a chance. Ichio saw that and chased Xiao Shurqin right away. Apparently, Su Muching had been watching them all this time. She helped Happy to protect Ichio from afar. Meanwhile, Mo Fan was still trying to catch Xiao Shurqin. But unfortunately, he fell into the enemy's trap. Xiao Shurqin had prepared a trap for their enemies. It was a land that full of mines. Mo Fan was trapped in that place. The members of Happy came to that place immediately to help Mo Fan. But instead of working together with his team, Mo Fan was obsessed to kill Xiao Shurqin by himself. He forgot that he had a team because it was his first time to play in a competition with a team. Because of his selfish obsession, he ruined his team's teamwork. He also made himself and Little Tang died after they got killed by Su Muching. Sun Xian was happy when he saw that. He thought that it was the time for him to join his team. Yi Qiu knew that Sun Xian would use his ultimate power to attack him. So, he prepared himself to defend him from his attack. But suddenly, Sun Xian changed the target of his attack. He decided to attack Enwenny and Yifan instead. Enwenny and Yifan died instantly because of his attack. Because of that, Yi Qiu and Wei Chen were the only members of Happy left. Yi Qiu was struggling to fight Sun Xiang and his team who attacked him together. So, he lured them into Wei Chen's place. Wei Chen had prepared himself to attack all of them. He managed to attack all members of Excellent Era, except Xiao Shurqin. Yi Qiu saw that and took care of Xiao Shurqin immediately. He finally managed to kill Xiao Shurqin. After that, Happy got 1 point to join the Challenger League. But Happy was still sad and disappointed because they lost in the competition. So, Yi Qiu suggested them to take a rest for a day. The next day, Happy had a meeting. Guigui told the members of Happy to write about their complaints on the papers. It could be about anything or anyone in the team. If someone received a complaint from another member, then they should be punished. Surprisingly, all of them wrote about themselves, except Mo Fan. Mo Fan didn't write anything on the paper. Because of that, Mo Fan regretted what he had done even more. Other members of Happy insisted on blaming themselves. Because of that, Guigui couldn't do anything but to punish them. Guigui told them to find the book about the techniques in Glory. Mo Fan and Wei Chen helped them to find that book. After they found that book, they sold the copies of the books and exchanged them with expensive items. A few weeks later, Happy evaluated their performance. It seemed that Mo Fan hadn't improved a lot. His performance was the worst compared to the performance of other members of Happy. Because of that, other members of Happy helped Mo Fan. They evaluated Mo Fan's performance when he played the game, including how he played, the strategy he used, etc. Then, they taught them about the rolling technique. They also taught him about what he should do if he wanted to bring the best out of his team. After that, they asked Mo Fan to play his favorite game. Mo Fan decided to play basketball. During the basketball game, Mo Fan and his team finally found a better strategy to work together as a team. They also learned about what they should do to bring the best out of their team. At another place, Yi Qiu saw a little boy and his grandfather. Suddenly, he remembered about his first league and his grandfather. Apparently, the real reason why Yichio always wore a mask when he played in the game tournament was because the disapproval of his father. His father didn't allow him to become an esports player. It was only his grandfather who supported him to become a professional esports player. With the support from his grandfather, Yichio finally decided to attend the academy. He hadn't returned home since he went to the academy. Then, one day, he suddenly received the news that his grandfather had passed away. Yichio felt guilty because he wasn't there to attend his grandfather's funeral. Because of that memory, Yichio finally decided to return home. It was the first time for him to go home since he left home to attend the academy. When Yichio met his father, he told his father that he didn't regret his life choice. He also told his father that he and his team were going to compete in the Challenger League. He gave a ticket to his father. He hoped his father would attend that league. A few days later, the members of Happy prepared themselves to compete against a mysterious team in the Challenger League. They were told that their opponent was a veteran team. They were famous, but they hadn't joined any serious competition except the Challenger League. The competition between Happy and the mysterious team was going to be held in the mysterious team's place. Because of that, the members of Happy didn't see any of their supporters at the spectator seats. But turned out, there was one. It was the journalist who was a die-hard fan of Yichio. He was the only supporter of Happy who attended that competition. At another place, Guigua made a mistake by submitting a wrong registration form. She was a little nervous because it was her first time to attend an official competition as a manager. She planned to submit Wei Chen's registration form, but she submitted Yithun's registration form instead. Yithun was surprised when he found out about that. He wondered how he could perform well in this one-on-one competition as a support. At the beginning of the game, it seemed like Yithun was very nervous. It was the first time for him to play in an official league. He was also the first member of Happy who played in that league. But he remembered about the advices that Yichio had told him. Because of those advices, he managed to manipulate his enemy's weaknesses. But unfortunately, he was finally defeated by his enemy at the end of the game. In the next battle, Bao Zi was going to compete against a witch. At the beginning of the game, Bao Zi seemed pretty confident. But after he played for a while, he was confused because he got lost. All he was doing during the game was only hiding behind those walls and rocks. It was because he remembered about the advices that Yichio had told him. Yichio once suggested him to hide behind the walls and the rocks if he wanted to hide from his enemy. So, Bao Zi did exactly what Yichio told him. Because of that, Bao Zi became an easy target for his enemy. His enemy attacked him relentlessly and finally managed to defeat him. It was Yichio's turn to play in the third battle. While he was going to the stage, he accidentally saw his father sitting at the spectator seat. Because of that, he finally took off his black mask. It was the first time for him to take off his mask when he played in an official league. Then, the battle between Yichio and an assassin from the opposing team began. During the game, Yichio attacked his enemy relentlessly. He didn't give a chance for his enemy to attack him back. Because of that, Yichio managed to defeat his enemy and become the winner. Yichio's father was very proud of his son when he saw that. He became even more proud of his son when the journalist, a die-hard fan of Yichio, approached and told him that Yichio was his inspiration. In the fourth battle, the rule of the game was a little different. Unlike the previous battles, the battle wouldn't end if one of the players won. The player who won in this battle would keep playing until all members of the opposing team lost. It was a last-man-standing show. Wei Chen volunteered to become the first player from Happy to play in the fourth battle. He was going to compete against a warlock from the opposing team. Before the battle began, the captain of the opposing team warned his warlock to ignore everything Wei Chen said during the game. He told him to just ignore Wei Chen and keep going. The battle between Wei Chen and the warlock finally began. As a warlock himself, it seemed like Wei Chen knew the range that could be reached by a warlock when he attacked his enemy. Because of that, he managed to stay out of his opponent's range to avoid his attack. Wei Chen's enemy also stayed out of Wei Chen's range to avoid his attack. But turned out, Wei Chen managed to attack his enemy with his special weapon. His weapon could reach further than the range limit. Because of that, Wei Chen managed to defeat his first enemy easily. After that, Wei Chen was going to compete against a swordsman. In this battle, Wei Chen used his big mouth technique to defeat his enemy. But since his enemy was a swordsman, that technique didn't work. Wei Chen was finally defeated by his enemy in only one attack. Because he had lost, Wei Chen went off the stage. Bao Zi was going to replace Wei Chen in the next battle. But unfortunately, he was also easily defeated by the same swordsman. Like Wei Chen, he was also defeated in only one attack. After that, it was Little Tang's turn to replace Bao Zi. Unlike the previous battles, the battle between Little Tang and the swordsman was so fierce. The battle was so fierce that she only had 30% energy left. But after they fought for a while, Little Tang finally managed to defeat the swordsman. Then, Little Tang was going to compete against the vice captain of the opposing team. Because she only had 30% energy left, she decided to be really careful with her moves. She was also afraid to attack her enemy. All she did during the game was only avoiding and defending herself from her enemy's attack. Because of that, she was finally defeated by her enemy. Little Tang seemed disappointed in herself because she lost in that battle. Yi Qiu saw her and chased her immediately. When he met her, he evaluated his last game. Little Tang smiled when she heard that. She said that she understood. In the fifth battle, Happy and their opposing team were going to compete against each other with their entire teams. At the beginning of the game, Happy was struggling to fight their enemies. They were attacked relentlessly by their enemies that their formation was divided. But apparently, it was a part of Yi Qiu's plan. Their strategy was to fight their enemies individually. It was because their characters could only attack their enemies at close range. While Yi Qiu was fighting the captain of the opposing team, Mo Fan suddenly appeared. He helped Yi Qiu to attack him. Mo Fan and Yi Qiu finally managed to defeat the captain of the opposing team. After that, the members of Happy helped each other. They attacked their enemies one by one together. Because of that, they managed to defeat all members of the opposing team. They won in this battle by the score of 6-5. After the competition, Yi Qiu planned to meet his father. He tried to find his father at the spectator seat, but he couldn't find him anywhere. But suddenly, the journalist approached him and gave him a key. That key was from his father. It meant that his father had supported him now. And Yi Qiu could return home whenever he wanted. At Happy Internet Cafe, the members of Happy were surprised when they saw the vandalism on the Internet Cafe's wall. Apparently, the supporters of Excellent Era were the ones who did this. They didn't like Yi Qiu because they thought Yi Qiu had betrayed Excellent Era. After that, while Yi Qiu and his team were hanging out at a cafe, they were harassed by a supporter of Excellent Era again. Yi Qiu told that supporter that they played glory for themselves and not for their supporters. He wanted to tell the world that he was an esports athlete, not an esports celebrity. After the supporter of Excellent Era heard that, he finally left that cafe. After that, Yi Qiu told his team to do self-reflection. He wanted them to find and understand their true motives to play glory. It was important for them to understand their true motives because those motives would affect how well their performances were and how long they would play the game. Then, he warned them about the verbal harassments that they might get from their haters if they got famous someday. They needed to prepare themselves to deal with those harassments. A few months later, both Happy and Excellent Era managed to win 6 competitions in a row. In the next competition, Happy was going to compete against Everlasting. During the game, the captain of Everlasting attacked Bao Zi relentlessly. It seemed easy for him to attack Bao Zi from a mile away. Su Muqing watched the competition at the spectator seat. She told her friend that the attack was impossible because it was shot at a long range. Meanwhile, Little Tang and Yifan were struggling to fight for members of Everlasting. They were attacked by them relentlessly. Because it seemed impossible for them to defeat them, Little Tang and Yifan lured their enemies into Wei Chen's place. Those 4 members of Everlasting followed them immediately. As soon as they arrived there, Wei Chen attacked all of them with his power. At another place, Yi Qiu finally found the captain of Everlasting who had been attacking Bao Zi all this time. He attacked and cornered him immediately. But suddenly, they got disconnected from the server. Apparently, Everlasting cheated in the game. They paid someone to tell them about the location of Bao Zi to their shooter. That was why the captain of their team managed to attack Bao Zi at a long range. Not only that, they also told the man they paid to disconnect them from the server if they got cornered. Even though Everlasting cheated in the game, Happy finally managed to defeat them in this battle. The captain of Everlasting was called Wu Chen. After he lost in the competition, he had a flashback about the time before the competition began. Before the competition began, Everlasting had a meeting. In that meeting, their manager told them that the investors would stop investing in their team if they lost in this competition. Because of that, Wu Chen was obsessed to win in this competition. He didn't care if their team had to cheat. Those investors were really important for their team. After that, Wu Chen asked Yi Qiu to meet him at a cafe. He wanted to sell all of Everlasting's equipment to Yi Qiu. Yi Qiu felt bad for him, so he asked him to join his team. Wu Chen finally agreed to join Happy after they had some negotiations. To continue our journey, let's summarize about the main characters in this series first. In the Glory Professional Alliance, there were the 4 master tacticians. They were Xiao Shiqin from Excellent Era, Yuan Zhou the captain of Blue Rain, Zhang Xinjie the vice captain of Tyranny, and Yi Qiu. Then, in Happy, there was the manager of Happy. She was called Guogua. The members of Happy consisted of Little Tang the fighter, Yifan the support, Bao Zi the striker, Luo Ji the summoner, Mo Fan the assassin, Wei Chen the warlock, and Wu Chen the shooter. In the next competition, Happy was going to compete against Jade Dynasty. While Wei Chen was buying some drinks, he saw Wu Chen was talking to the captain of Jade Dynasty. Wei Chen thought that Wu Chen was going to betray his team. He planned to tell Yi Qiu about it. But before Wei Chen managed to tell Yi Qiu about Wu Chen, an employee from the Glory Federation League came to their room. He accused Yi Qiu of using fake identity to play Glory. Yi Qiu suddenly remembered the time when he used his twin brother's identity to create his new account. Before Yi Qiu left them, he asked Wei Chen to take care of their team. He chose Wei Chen to replace him while he was gone because Wei Chen was the most experienced player in the team. Wei Chen then remembered the time when Wu Chen talked to the captain of Jade Dynasty. He suspected that Wu Chen was going to sabotage them. So, he asked Guogua to replace Wu Chen with Yifan in this competition. Guogua finally did what Wei Chen asked him. During the game, Yifan competed against a support. Because of his experiences as an assassin in Tiny Herb for years, he was really great at walking without getting noticed by his enemy. It seemed that he had also improved a lot after those months with Happy. Then, Yifan was hiding at the top of the wall. He was waiting for the lightning to strike to attack his enemy in a surprise. After that, he used a special technique to trap his enemy. While his enemy was trapped, he attacked him relentlessly with all of his powers. Because of that, Yifan managed to win in that battle. In the second battle, Bao Zi was going to compete against a swordsman from Jade Dynasty. During the game, it also seemed that Bao Zi had improved a lot after he spent that many months with Happy. He managed to defeat his enemy even though his enemy was a veteran player like Wei Chen. It was because he had an ability to copy his enemy's skills and use them to fight against them. In the third battle, it was Mo Fan's turn to play. Before Mo Fan went to the stage, Wei Chen told him to buy time because Yi Qiu hadn't come back yet. Because of that, Mo Fan decided to keep hiding from his enemy during the game. He didn't attack his enemy even though he could. Suddenly, the referee approached him and gave him a yellow card. It was because he had been playing passively for a long time. Because of that, Mo Fan had no other option but to attack his enemy. After Mo Fan and his enemy fought for a while, Mo Fan was finally defeated by his enemy. In another room, Yi Qiu was waiting for the decision of the Glory Federation League. The Glory Federation League was still having a meeting with the captains of the great teams. In the next battle, Little Tang was going to compete against 3 members of the opposing team. She promised her team that she would defeat all of them. She confidently said that she would stop playing Glory if she lost in that battle. During the game, it seemed that Little Tang was really great at fighting her enemies. Like Bao Zi and Yifan, she had also improved a lot. She performed well when she fought the assassin of the opposing team. But apparently, it was only her enemy's plan to be attacked by Little Tang easily. He purposely sacrificed himself so he could defeat her at the end. His strategy finally worked. Little Tang died instantly because of his attack. It meant that Little Tang failed to keep her promise to defeat 3 of her enemies. Little Tang looked so pressured because of that. In the next battle, Guogua was going to play for her team. Even though Guogua wasn't a good player, Happy couldn't do anything but to choose her. There was no member left in the team that they could choose except Wu Chen. But Wei Chen didn't want Wu Chen to play for them because he still suspected that Wu Chen was going to betray them. As expected, Guogua had no idea about what she should do during the game. Because of that, she was easily defeated by her enemy when the battle had just begun. In the last battle, Wei Chen was going to compete against 2 members of the opposing team. During the game, Wei Chen noticed that his enemy kept using the same skill to attack him. Because of that, he managed to defeat his enemy easily. But apparently, it was only a part of their enemy's plan. His enemy purposely attacked Wei Chen with the same skill so Wei Chen would keep repeating the same move to avoid his attacks. As the result, Wei Chen's wrist would get injured. His other enemy also used the same skill that his friend used to attack Wei Chen. Wei Chen began to get tired. His right hand began to get tired and hard to move. After a while, he couldn't move his hand anymore to avoid his enemy's attacks. Because of that, he finally lost in that battle. In another room, the leader of the Glory Federation League finally made a decision. He decided to ban Yichio from any Glory official competition. Then, the captains of the great teams gave their testimonies about Yichio. He told him that Yichio was really kind and smart. They said that Yichio had created many useful tips and strategies for the players. They really respected Yichio and saw him as a good rival, mentor, and friend. Because of that, banning Yichio from playing Glory was a bad idea. They thought that it would be bad for the Glory community because they would lose a good mentor. It would also make the competitions become less competitive than before. During the break time, Happy was having a meeting. Wei Chen still suspected that Wu Chen was going to betray them. So, he asked them to exclude him again in the next battle. He didn't even ask Wu Chen to join the meeting. Other members were confused about Wei Chen's decision. They asked him why they needed to exclude Wu Chen, but Wei Chen refused to give them the real answer. Because of that, they got into an argument. After they broke their fight, Guigui told them that they would agree with Wei Chen's decision. After all, Wei Chen was entrusted by Yichio to take care of the team while Yichio was gone. Then, they decided to make Yichio as the substitute player. Wu Chen couldn't do anything but to accept those decisions. The battle then finally began. During the game, all members of Happy were playing passively. They did that purposely to wait for Yichio to come back. But unfortunately, the enemies found them. Because of that, they had no other choice but to fight them back. Little Tang was still obsessed to defeat 3 of her enemies. Meanwhile, Wei Chen was struggling to fight his enemy because his wrist got injured. He often missed his attacks and his energy got drained a lot. It seemed like both Happy and the opposing team were targeting each other's healer. Wei Chen saw when he was being chased by an enemy. He targeted that enemy immediately. He attacked him, but he missed his attack again. His attack hit the building instead. The building collapsed and fell on Wenny. And Wenny died instantly because of that. At another place, Little Tang was struggling to fight her enemies. She was finally defeated by them. She had to admit that she couldn't defeat 3 enemies by herself. In another room, after the Glory Federation League considered the opinions of the captains of the great teams, they finally decided to allow Yichio to play in the game tournament. But Yichio could only play Glory as his new identity, Yichio, and not as Yichio. As the consequence, all achievements that Yichio had made in Excellent Era would be removed. Excellent Era would suffer a loss because of that. After Yichio heard that decision, he rushed out of the building. He texted Su Muching and asked her to take him to the stadium. When Yichio arrived at the stadium, he found out that Wei Chen, Little Tang, and Wenny's characters had died. There were only Yichio, Baozi, and Yifan left. So, the 3 of them had to fight against 6 members of the opposing team. Yichio realized that it would be difficult for them to defeat 6 people. So, his strategy was to lure their enemies into a cliff. After all enemies followed Yichio to the cliff, Baozi blew up the cliff. As the cliff collapsed, everybody on that cliff also fell, except Yichio. Yichio managed to save himself by flying with his propeller. But suddenly, an enemy grabbed his legs and tried to destroy his myriad manifestation umbrella, which was also his propeller. Yichio's propeller emitted smoke after it was damaged by his enemy. Yifan saw them and helped Yichio immediately. He jumped on the body of the enemy who was grabbing Yichio's legs. Because they were too heavy, they finally fell together. Yichio managed to get back to the top of the cliff. If he could defeat the last member of the opposing team, then he would win in this battle. The fierce battle between Yichio and the swordsman finally began. Yichio used his myriad manifestation umbrella to fight his enemy. Probably because it had been used too much during the game, Yichio's myriad manifestation umbrella suddenly broke. It was broken when Yichio used it to defend himself from his enemy's attack. Yichio also died instantly from that attack. Because of that, Happy finally lost in that competition. They were pressured and saddened by their loss, especially Yichio. Yichio was really sad because he lost the weapon that was made by his best friend. It was also the only non-specialized weapon that ever existed in Glory. It would be almost impossible to fix the weapon. Even if it could be fixed, it would take a very long time. At the base camp, in their own rooms, all members of Happy were still thinking about their loss. They even thought of giving up. Yichio decided to return home for a while. When he arrived there, he went to the room where he played Glory for the first time with Su Muchio and Su Muching. He saw their picture there. He remembered that Su Muchio would get angry at him when he accidentally damaged his property. He wanted to cry because of that. Then, he had a flashback about the time where he bought an arcade game with his own money. He got that money after he won in a game. In the present time, Su Muching was watching Ichio playing the arcade game while crying. She also cried when she saw that. She was sad because it reminded her of her brother Sumuchio. At the base camp of Happy, the members of Happy thought that they had no future anymore. They thought that it was useless for them to play Glory anymore because of their loss in the last competition. Then, Wei-Chen told them that they lost because of Wu-Chen. He said that Wu-Chen had betrayed them by selling the information about their team to the opposing team. But when he said that they lost because of Wei-Chen himself, he blamed Wei-Chen and said that he had failed to take responsibility as the temporary team captain. Then, the members of Happy blamed each other. They got mad at each other and got into arguments. Because everyone got mad and blamed each other, Wei-Chen impulsively suggested them to disband their team. Apparently, Ichio had been listening to them from another room. He finally entered the room and interrupted them. He told them to decide the future of the team. He told them to decide if they wanted to stay in the team or just give up. Wei-Chen decided to leave Happy and return to his house. That afternoon, he was playing Glory with his old friends. But since his old friends were busy with their jobs, they couldn't stay longer to play with him. They left one by one until Wei-Chen didn't have a team to play Glory with anymore. Little Tang also decided to leave Happy. She returned to her old music academy. As soon as she arrived there, she had a conversation with her old teacher there. She told her teacher that she wouldn't leave the academy anymore. At home, Wei-Chen had no idea what he was going to do with Glory anymore. So, he finally decided to sell his Glory account. It was an old and historical account which had unlocked a lot of weapons and skills. When he was about to sign the purchase and sale agreement, Bao Zi suddenly came to his house. He was surprised to see Wei-Chen going to sell his Glory account. So, he got rid of Wei-Chen's pen immediately to prevent him from signing that purchase and sale agreement. Because of that, Wei-Chen got angry at him. He was annoyed by Bao Zi because he really needed some money. So, he had to sell his Glory account. Then, Wei-Chen told Bao Zi that he was too old to become a Glory player, especially to consider that his wrist was injured. He wouldn't perform well with his injured hand. Bao Zi said that everyone would stop playing Glory at the end. But it was up to them if they wanted to quit as a loser or as a winner. Wei-Chen didn't listen to him. He returned to his house and continued his transaction. He finally signed the purchase and sale agreement and sold his Glory account. At another place, Mo Fan was hanging out at a coffee shop. He wished that the members of Happy would return to that coffee shop soon. Suddenly, Su Muching approached him. She said that she believed that the members of Happy would reunite soon. After that, Su Muching visited Happy Internet Cafe to meet with Ichio. Ichio told her that he had collected the materials that were needed to fix Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. He tried to fix the weapon with those materials, but he didn't think that it was the same weapon like it was before. Because of that, Ichio wanted to give up. He wanted to stop playing Glory. Then, Su Muching gave a coin to him. It was a lucky coin that belonged to her brother. Su Muching said that Sumuchio used that coin to decide if he should leave her or not. Back then, Su Muching and Sumuchio were orphans. When Su Muching was going to be adopted by her new parents, Sumuchio couldn't decide if he had to let her leave or that they should stay together. So, he used that lucky coin to make a decision. While Sumuchio was flipping that coin, Ichio suddenly walked past him. Since then, Ichio, Su Muching, and Sumuchio became friends. Su Muching said that Ichio was the most beautiful thing that ever happened in her and her brother's life. Then, Su Muching asked Ichio not to give up. She asked him to try to fix and perfect Myriad Manifestation Umbrella again. She knew that the weapon was so special to him because it was made by her brother. At Happy Internet Cafe, Guigua was holding an unofficial press conference. The journalists asked her about what was going to happen to Happy. Guigua was overwhelmed by their questions. When she had no idea about what to say to them, Wu-Chen suddenly came. He helped her to answer those journalists' questions. He told those journalists that all members of Happy were leaving the team for a while. So, there was nothing to be worried about them. Then, Guigua and Wu-Chen walked down the streets together. Wu-Chen told Guigua that he had met with his friends from other teams to ask them for help. He asked them to help him finding materials that were needed to perfect Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. So, Wei-Chen's suspicion that Wu-Chen was going to betray Happy was not true. Guigua and Wu-Chen were the only members of Happy who still stayed at their base camp. In the evening, they attended the press conference of the final competition. The final competition would be held in the same evening. When they arrived there, the journalists realized that it was only Guogua and Wu Chen who attended the press conference. So, they accused them of lying to them. They thought that there was something that they were hiding from the world. While Guogua was trying to explain about their situation to the journalists, Yi Qiu suddenly came to that place. Guogua and Wu Chen were happy to see him. Then, Yi Qiu made a speech. He said that winning or losing was a part of a game. So, it wasn't really important if you won or lost. The most important thing in this life was not giving up in life. Yi Qiu also said that glory was only one of the choices that the life offered. There were millions of choices that people could choose out there. And when they had chosen something, they had to fight for it. And suddenly, the missing members of Happy appeared one by one. All members of Happy finally reunited on the stage. They decided to play in the last competition. After that, all of them returned to Happy Base Camp. When they were talking in the dining room, Wei Chen told them that he didn't sell his glory account because of Bao Zi. While he was about to sign the purchase and sale agreement for the second time, Bao Zi suddenly came and tore up the agreement. Then, each member of Happy told them about what they were doing when they were gone. Apparently, all of them planned to help Yi Qiu to fix Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. After that, Yi Qiu analyzed the broken Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. He wanted to find the errors in that weapon. Suddenly, he had a hallucination where he saw Su Muqiu giving him a clue about the error in that weapon. Yi Qiu then realized that he needed to fix the hilt of Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. After that, Yi Qiu told his team about it. The members of Happy then divided the tasks to find the materials needed to fix and upgrade Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. At another place, the members of Excellent Era were having a meeting. The meeting was led by Xiao Shirqin. He told them that Glory had added 5 new levels to the game. It meant that they needed to complete new missions and work so hard to reach new maximum level. Then, Xiao Shirqin presented a new member of Excellent Era to their team. That new member was called Qiu Fei. He just got promoted from the team too. He was also one of Yi Qiu's students. But Yi Qiu once sent him abroad to study because of his anger issue. Now that he had finished his study abroad, he returned to Excellent Era to find Yi Qiu. Unfortunately, Yi Qiu had left Excellent Era and created his own team. Sun Xian was surprised when he found out that Qiu Fei was basically the same person as him. They shared the same abilities, profession, and even personalities. Because of that, Sun Xian suggested that they train together. He said that they could be the main killers in Excellent Era. At Happy Internet Cafe, the members of Happy had completed many missions. They had also reached many high scores. They were working so hard to find the last material that was needed to fix and upgrade Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. That last material was called Blue-White Crystal. But unfortunately, that material had been taken by Excellent Era. Excellent Era managed to get the highest score when they completed a mission. So, the members of Happy were trying to find a way to get Blue-White Crystal. They finally found a way. They had to complete a normal mission for several times. Then, Guogua came to that place. She brought all members of their guild and their supporters there. They were going to help them to complete their mission and get the rare Blue-White Crystal. Because of their help, Guogua finally managed to find Blue-White Crystal, the last material that was needed to perfect Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. While the members of Happy were about to take an official picture of themselves, they suddenly received some news. In that news, it was stated that the rules of the last competition had been changed. There wouldn't be any individual battles in the last competition anymore. Those battles would be changed with point system. Any team would earn 2 points if they killed a member of the opposing team. At the office of Excellent Era, the manager Tao called Su Muqing to his room. He wanted to talk about Su Muqing's contract extension for the next 3 years. He told her that she was going to have some personal training sessions with a mentor. But Su Muqing said that she wouldn't extend the terms of her agreement with Excellent Era. Tao was surprised when he heard that. He suspected that Su Muqing planned to move to Happy. Because of that, he threatened to ban her from joining the last competition. He worried if Su Muqing played recklessly so Happy would win in the competition. Su Muqing then told him that she was a professional sports player. Because she was still a member of Excellent Era, she would play as best as she could for her team. The final competition would be held in 3 hours. Both Happy and Excellent Era were planning the best strategies that they would use in the competition. When Tao and the members of Excellent Era arrived at the stadium, the journalists chased them immediately. Those journalists knew that Su Muqing's contract with Excellent Era would end soon. They asked Su Muqing with many questions related to it. Su Mucheng was uncomfortable by their questions, so she left them right away. When the members of Happy arrived there, those journalists also chased them right away. They asked Little Tang about her promise to stop playing Glory when she lost in the competition back then. Little Tang apologized to them because she had behaved arrogantly. She said that she would keep playing Glory with Happy even though it meant that she had to break her promise. Then, the members of Happy continued their journey to the venue. While they were heading there, Ichio reminded them again about the roles of each of them and the strategies that they would use. The spectator seats were full of people, including the captains of the great teams and the senior players of Glory. Xiaotian also attended the competition, but not as a spectator but as a sportscaster. The competition finally began. The sportscaster told the spectators again that the rules of the last competition had been changed. So, there would be only 2 battles in this competition. Those were the regular battle and the team battle. For each battle, both teams should send 6 players to compete against their opponents. They would earn scores each time they managed to kill their opponent. The first battle finally began. Happy sent Little Tang to play in the first battle, meanwhile Excellent Era sends Xiao Shurqin to play in the first battle. The members of Happy were surprised when they saw that. They thought that Excellent Era would send Sun Xiang to play first to grab the audience's attention. It seemed like Excellent Era wanted to tell the world that Sun Xiang had changed. It seemed that Sun Xiang could control himself and knew how to prioritize his team now. Even though Xiao Shurqin was a master tactician, Little Tang had higher actions per minute or APM than Xiao Shurqin's APM. But still, Little Tang was struggling to fight Xiao Shurqin because she lacked experiences and skills. Because of that, Little Tang was finally defeated by Xiao Shurqin. Xiao Shurqin still had 70% energy left after he fought Little Tang for a while. When Little Tang returned to her team, Yi Qiu and Guigui cheered her up immediately. They told her that it was normal if Little Tang couldn't defeat Xiao Shurqin since he was a master tactician who had been playing Glory for a long time. So, it was actually unfair if a beginner like Little Tang fought a skilled and experienced player like Xiao Shurqin. Because of that, Little Tang shouldn't be sad and blame herself. In the next battle, Mo Fan was going to compete against Xiao Shurqin. Turned out, he was also struggling to fight Xiao Shurqin. It was difficult for him to approach his enemy. So, he attacked Xiao Shurqin recklessly. His reckless moves were easily predicted by Xiao Shurqin. Because of that, Xiao Shurqin managed to attack him easily. Mo Fan was struggling to attack him back. He was finally defeated by him. So far, Xiao Shurqin had earned 4 points for his team because he managed to defeat 2 members of the opposing team. Then, in the next battle, Yifan was going to compete against Xiao Shurqin. At the beginning of the game, Yifan performed really well. It seemed like he had improved a lot. He wasn't the same Yifan who was playing for Tiny Herb back then. During the game, Yifan even managed to trap Xiao Shurqin. Xiao Shurqin was struggling to free himself from his trap. But unfortunately, while Xiao Shurqin was almost defeated, Yifan suddenly stepped on a mine that was built by Xiao Shurqin. Both Xiao Shurqin and Yifan finally died at the end. Because of that, they had the same score. In the next battle, Yi Qiu was going to compete against Qiu Fei, his former student. During the game, Qiu Fei dominated at the beginning of the game. But suddenly, Yi Qiu disappeared without a trace. Qiu Fei couldn't see him anywhere. But Yi Qiu suddenly reappeared and attacked him relentlessly. Qiu Fei was struggling to fight him back. From their battle, it was obvious that Yi Qiu was more skilled and experienced than Qiu Fei. Qiu Fei was finally defeated by Yi Qiu. In the next battle, Sun Xiang was going to compete against Yi Qiu. Before the battle began, Yi Qiu recovered his energy first because he had lost a lot of energy when he fought Qiu Fei before. After he gained 70% of his energy back, he finally told Sun Xiang that he was ready to fight. During the game, Sun Xiang showed his new skills to Yi Qiu. He got those new skills after he completed all missions to unlock the new levels. It also seemed that he had improved a lot. Yi Qiu had no idea how hard Sun Xiang was working to fight in this competition. He was struggling to fight Sun Xiang. Because Sun Xiang dominated in the game, he began to become arrogant. Yi Qiu had been observing how Sun Xiang played all this time and he finally understood his secret. Apparently, Sun Xiang had studied One Autumn Leaf, the god-level account that formerly used by Yi Qiu but now belonged to Sun Xiang. Because of that, Yi Qiu finally managed to attack Sun Xiang back. Sun Xiang was nervous because he had only 10% energy left. So, he attacked Yi Qiu with his ultimate power. Everybody who watched them was amazed when they saw Sun Xiang deflecting his ultimate power up to 180 degrees. They were getting more surprised when they found out that the winner of that battle was Yi Qiu and not Sun Xiang. They believed that Sun Xiang had defeated Yi Qiu with his ultimate power. But when the video recording of the battle was replayed, they saw that Yi Qiu approached Sun Xiang quietly so Sun Xiang's ultimate power would be diverted to Sun Xiang. Since Sun Xiang was busy emitting his ultimate power, he would be unable to stop or avoid his own attack. Because of that, Yi Qiu managed to defeat Sun Xiang. He had only 0.03% energy left. Sun Xiang smiled when he found out that he lost in that battle. It seemed that he had really changed. He could control his ego and anger now. He accepted his defeat gracefully. Yi Qiu decided to went off the stage because his character almost had no energy to fight anymore. So, in the next battle, he would be replaced by Wei Chen. Wei Chen was going to compete against Gorilla, a member of Excellent Era. During the game, Wei Chen's injured hand began to stop him from performing well. Yi Qiu noticed that Wei Chen was struggling to fight his enemy. So, he asked Bao Zi if Wei Chen's hand was alright. At first, Bao Zi lied about Wei Chen's injured hand. But he finally gave up and told Yi Qiu about everything. But then he said that Wei Chen had taken sedatives before the competition began. Despite his injured hand, Wei Chen insisted on playing in this competition. It was because this competition might be the last competition for him. So, Wei Chen decided to fight until the end. And his dedication finally paid off. Wei Chen managed to defeat his enemy and become the winner in this battle. In the next battle, Wei Chen was going to compete against Su Mucheng. Before Su Mucheng went to the stage, Tao approached her. Tao threatened her that if she lost in this battle, then he would accuse her of cheating and betraying Excellent Era. He would tell the world that she lost purposely so Happy could win. If the world found out about that, then they would question and doubt Su Mucheng's professionalism. Xiao Shirqin expressed his objection immediately to what Tao had said, but Tao didn't care about that. As soon as the battle began, Su Mucheng was looking for and running toward a high place. She needed to go there to find out about Wei Chen's location. She planned to end their battle quickly. After Su Mucheng found a high place and found where Wei Chen was, she attacked her opponent relentlessly. She managed to attack Wei Chen even from a long range. She didn't even give a chance for Wei Chen to breathe. Wei Chen was struggling to fight her back because of that. He was finally defeated by Su Mucheng. Su Mucheng was really hurt by what her manager Tao said to her early. She disappointed in him. So, she decided that it was the last time for her to play for Excellent Era. After she went off the stage, she didn't return to her team. She sat with the members of Happy instead. The regular battle was finally ended. Excellent Era managed to win over Happy by the score of 34-29. After that, Happy and Excellent Era were going to compete against each other in a team battle. In this battle, Xiao Shirqin and Yi Qiu were going to prove who was the best between them. Long before the competition began, each of them had been preparing the best strategies to fight each other in the competition. The battle between Excellent Era and Happy finally began. During the game, Yi Qiu fired a gun into the air to distract the attention of the members of Excellent Era. The members of Excellent Era divided themselves into two teams with different tasks. Sun Xiang and Xiu Fei were assigned to find Yi Qiu. When they found Yi Qiu, they attacked him together immediately. Yi Qiu kept avoiding their attacks. He was waiting for a chance to attack them back. He was struggling to fight them because he was outnumbered and both Sun Xiang and Xiu Fei were great players. But then, he remembered that Sun Xiang and Xiu Fei had anger issues. So, he planned to ruin their teamwork by breaking the rhythm of their attacks. At another place, while Yifan, Bao Zi, and Little Tang were chasing Xiao Shirqin, they suddenly stepped on a mine. Xiao Shirqin knew that they were going to chase him. So, he built that mine. He also told his teammates to hide and wait there. Then, other members of Excellent Era appeared and attacked Yifan, Bao Zi, and Little Tang. Meanwhile, Yi Qiu was still struggling to fight Sun Xiang and Xiu Fei. Apparently, Happy had a secret weapon. It was used by Wu Chen. When Yi Qiu finally had a chance to stay away from his enemies, he asked Wu Chen to help him. Wu Chen immediately shot Sun Xiang and Xiu Fei. He shot them at a long range. While Wu Chen was attacking them, Yi Qiu ran away from that place right away. Then, Wu Chen also helped Yifan, Bao Zi, and Little Tang. He relentlessly shot the members of Excellent Era at a long range. He didn't give a chance for them to breathe. He used that moment to take revenge on them. His attacks managed to kill a member of Excellent Era. After one of their players died, Excellent Era quickly added their substitute player to the game. Since Wu Chen was around the portal of Excellent Era, he attacked that substitute player immediately before he managed to join Xiao Shurqin and the others. Wu Chen had no other option but to fight him at close range. The continuous attacks from Excellent Era made Happy tired and struggle. Those attacks also ruined the formation that Happy had created. Then, the members of Happy saw Xiao Shurqin and the injured healer of Excellent Era. They were chasing them immediately. Meanwhile, Wu Chen was still fighting the substitute player of Excellent Era. He didn't care if his melee attacks were too risky and could put him in danger. But finally, he managed to defeat his enemy even though he also died at the end. After Wu Chen died, Happy quickly added their substitute player, and Wenny, to the game. At another place, Yi Qiu managed to run away from Sun Xiang and Xiu Fei. He met the healer of Excellent Era and managed to defeat him. After that, he was chasing Xiao Shurqin. Xiao Shurqin was being constantly attacked by Yifan, Bao Zi, and Little Tang. He lost a lot of his energy because of their attacks. Because of his low energy, he thought that it was impossible for him to fight or run away from them. So, he planned to carry out a suicide bombing attack. Yi Qiu noticed what he was going to do. He told his friends to run away from that place immediately. But unfortunately, it was already too late. Bao Zi and Yifan became the victims of that suicide bombing attack. They died together with Xiao Shurqin. Meanwhile, Little Tang managed to survive. She was saved by Yi Qiu, who came there and protected her at the right time. After that incident, the members of Happy had to change their strategies. Not long after that, Sun Xiang and Xiu Fei found Yi Qiu and Little Tang. They attacked them immediately. Yi Qiu was struggling to fight them because he had to recover Little Tang's energy at the same time. Fortunately, and Wenny, the healer of Happy, finally came and helped Yi Qiu to recover Little Tang's energy. After Little Tang gained her energy back, she attacked Xiu Fei right away. After they fought for a while, Little Tang finally managed to defeat him. But since Xiu Fei's ultimate power was too powerful, Little Tang and Wenny also died from his attack. Because of that, Excellent Era managed to earn more points than Excellent Era. If the winner of this competition was decided by the team that earned more points, then Excellent Era would become the winner. After the incidents that killed the members of both Happy and Excellent Era, there were only Yi Qiu and Sun Xiang left. Even though Excellent Era was going to become the winner, Yi Qiu refused to give up. He decided to fight Sun Xiang until the end. The fierce battle between Yi Qiu and Sun Xiang finally began. They fought as best as they could to defeat each other. But Yi Qiu finally began to dominate in their fight. He finally managed to defeat Sun Xiang for the second time in that competition. With the death of Sun Xiang, Happy became the winner in the second battle. But their score was still lower than Excellent Era's score. The members and the supporters of Happy were sad because the difference of their scores was only 1 point. Excellent Era managed to win over them by the score of 44-43. But then, while the members of Happy were sad because of their loss, their score on the screen suddenly changed. The score of their team was changed from 43-45. Apparently, Yi Qiu had set a new record in creating the biggest damage output. The last Glory player who had the biggest damage output was Han Wenqing. Nobody had broken his record for 4 years. But tonight, Yi Qiu managed to break his record. So, Happy was rewarded with 2 points for breaking that record. When they saw that, all members and supporters of Happy cheered. They were extremely happy because Happy finally became the winner in that competition. After the manager of Excellent Era, Tao, saw that, he quickly blamed Sun Xiang for the loss of Excellent Era. He said that it was because Sun Xiang that they lost in this competition. He scolded and verbally harassed Sun Xiang in front of their supporters. On the stage, as the winner of the competition, all members of Happy were rewarded with the main prizes, including a trophy, a car, and a certificate. They could use that certificate to join the Challenger League. In the evening, all of them went out together to celebrate their victory. Not long after that, Happy made an announcement that they were going to join the Challenger League. The journalists interviewed the captains of the great professional teams one by one. In the next morning, while the members of Happy were watching the news, they found out that Excellent Era had declared their bankruptcy. As the consequence, all members of Excellent Era had to leave Excellent Era and join other teams. After that, Yi Qiu and Su Muqing went to the office of Excellent Era. They went there to pack Su Muqing's things. While Yi Qiu was walking around the rooms in the office, he saw Tao playing Glory alone in the game room. He and Tao then talked about their past. Tao admitted that he had made a mistake in the past. He thought that they could be a great team back then, but the past was in the past. He couldn't change anything about it even though he regretted it. After that, Tao gave Su Muqing's glory account card to Ichio. He told him to give that card to Su Muqing. A few days later, they found out that Sun Xiang had been recruited by a great professional team. Because of that, the game tournament would be more competitive to them. It meant that they had to prepare themselves and do their best to compete against other teams in the main game tournament.